Man, I miss that theme song every week. I'm just going to say that as well as the fellow himself. Hey there, folks. This is a special tribute to the one, the only, the man, the legend himself, David Nesdall. I'm Ben. We have the lovely Desiree. We have Lenny. We have Dennis. We have Ty. We have Rob. And we have stories and tales and laughs and tears. We're going to have it all tonight. I just know it because... I'm kind of looking forward to this just today, Des, because it's a chance to catch up with all you fine folks.
I know.
If nothing else.
It's been a year.
It's been a year. It's
almost
crazy. Been just about a year. And Dennis has temporarily left the building. That's okay. He's probably coming back, just doing a lap. It was like a bad party, Rob. He just came in, did a lap, and he's like, okay. And,
he'll be back. He's just circling around. But I know it's crazy, though. I mean, I just was talking to Desiree a week or so ago, and we were just like, whoa, years gone by. And, you know, from not to start it out on a negative note, because it's all going to be a positive show because it's in Dave's memory and everything. And I know Dave is watching right now. I mean, he was best friend, you know. But I remember the phone call I got from Desiree that morning at 5 a.m. and I'll never forget it. And I was just like, what? I mean, it was crazy, but a year goes by fast, but you guys got it out to see my place, and that was such a huge thing.
Yep, he enjoyed it. It was so much fun. It was so beautiful. Yep, I'm glad we came.
Yeah, totally.
I remember him going on about it. He had a blast.
He did.
He did.
Well, Lenny, Ty, what's going on?
It's good to see all of you.
Yeah.
It's good to see you. Dave Nesdal is still bringing people together.
Oh, yeah. So, we already got 46 people in the chat so far.
That's the truth.
Wow.
And not a day goes by that, you know, I don't quote him or remember something we did together. I got my guitar wall staring me square in the face every day, and half the guitars on that wall I got from Dave, you know, directly from Dave. So
I know that feeling.
Right.
I upgraded a bunch of mine to Dave's, you know.
That's pretty darn special. Yeah.
Well, Ty, you can attest as well as myself, and Rob can as well. When you co-host a show with Dave, there's never lacking for conversation because there was always something new. Always something new.
Yeah,
always. And you know, I told Desiree this just a few days ago. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't have a question for him. You know,
I know. That's so funny.
And in fact, I had a really important question for him about a month ago, and I really wanted to talk to him. So I texted Rob, and Rob answered my question for me because I was like, you know, there's one guy I know that has all these answers, and there's another guy I know too that I can bother with this too. And Rob was,
yeah,
Rob and I exchanged a text. You know, it was just always. Dave was such a deep well of knowledge about guitars, but it was such a passion for him, you know, that he took the time for so many of us, and I'm so thankful.
That's why we each keep a piece of them, you know, inside that we can tap into from time to time, you know.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Welcome back, Dennis.
Hi.
Dennis, what's up?
I had to curse a bunch before we joined.
Oh, okay.
Before I rejoined, because you knocked us all off, and when you guys all came up, I'm like, I have no sound. I'm like, okay.
Oh, no.
I can see you all moving your mouths, and I'm like, all right, I'm out. I'm gonna curse now.
Well, musicians and digital devices. We're like, we like vacuum tubes. We like braided cable. It's just.
Yeah. I mean, I heard you guys when I first joined. I heard you say, all right, I'm going to kick you all off. And then when you brought us all back on, there was no sound from me. I was like, all right. Whatever.
How you doing, Dennis? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Great to see everybody in the chat. I got the ultimate one for you, Ty, where I wish I could phone a friend. Bent Tom in the chat here comes across an amp head last year. Okay. He's on reverb, hand-wired tube amp. What's the name on the amp head? Nesdal.
Really?
So we're like, what's this mystery, right? I reached out to Desiree I sent her a photo of it, and they're like, look what Tom came across. And she's like, I think I know what that is, because he got rid of some gear when I moved in. And I'm thinking, all right, well, and Tom's just like, he managed to reach out. I believe it was modified by a buddy. I'm bad with names, but he and a buddy were hanging out, modified this amp. Might have been a buddy from Rock and Roll Amps, perhaps. I think it was. And then Tom reached out to him, and he converted. Yeah, Dave and I, and he's like, it's the ultimate basement. It's the ultimate basement head. So it's now back in the fold in the family.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy Tom's got that.
But we're like, come on, who would know? I wish I could message Dave right now because he would know exactly what it was because he built the dang thing. We figured it had to come from him.
Yeah, Dave loved rock and roll amps. He loved that. He loved how they were built. He loved how they sounded. And in fact, I had an amp question not too terribly long ago that I sent to Dennis, and Dennis recommended rock and roll amps. So, I mean, keeping it in the circle for sure.
Yeah, Dennis and Dave had that in common. That was definitely a common thread between the two of them. They love those amps, and I know times that I would go to Dave's, and he would plug that in. It was just like, whoa! I mean, it was a different sound. It was a very warm, not to use the term brown, but it was a very warm sound. Really, distorted, but also clean to the point where you could really hear what was going on, and it had a real great attack to it. When you play, I loved how it sounded.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the sound of his rig with that 335 he had. I mean, it was, oh my God, it was like the heavens parted. It was divine.
Oh yeah, the amount of times talking to him, and he's like, "Here, I know it's not going to sound good," and he'll hit a couple chords. I'm like, "Damn, that tone, come on, that sounds brilliant."
Yeah,
I still got to dial it in. I'm like, for what? Perfection? Like what?
Well, Dennis is keeping it alive and well because we went out to see him play last week, and he just lit it up. Those are great sounding amps. I mean,
that's the only amps I own.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
the guitar combo, a winner.
Yeah.
It's cool. They're very cool amplifiers. I have a few of them.
Kind of an addiction, isn't it? Yeah.
Not too obsessive.
A little bit. But he's Jack's a good friend. He was a good friend of Dave's as well, and we were there often, and hanging out, cracking jokes, listening to stuff. So it's a shame Jack isn't on board here right now. I bet you Jack couldn't figure it out.
Jack put my Tessie switch in. So I got a USA Wolfgang. I don't know. This is years ago, and I really wasn't super stoked with the way it came to me. And it was a new guitar, and I sent it to Nesdal, and he was like, "Oh, this is before they were making the signature model." And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have this fixed right up." And he called me one afternoon, and he was like, "Hey, PayPal Jack X amount of money because he's going to install this kill switch right now."
That's cool. Good. Yeah. Jack did the same for me with a Tessie switch. I have on my lone PRS. I put a Tessie switch on, and Rob was great. He made one for me. He actually made two. It was special, like a combination of gold and I guess a nickel, because the hardware was a combination of the two. So yeah, Rob's a good guy, and Jack
Yeah.
as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Rob does send along his well wishes. Des, I was on the phone with him last night and had a great old chat.
Good.
And
Thank you.
I see Tom was saying, he says, yeah, Jack didn't know me at all, but he gave me 45 minutes of his time and told me some great stories. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. And yeah, we
How many people are in the chat right now?
And I
60.
can't. I can't
65.
keep up with it.
65.
Yeah.
Wow.
Security, they're extra frisking. They're slowly trickling in. They're slowly
I know,
trickling.
Yeah, we got
Extra
a pretty good group.
frisky. Sign me up for that.
Yeah, all kinds of familiar names from
I know.
various channels, and much love from everybody. It's great to see.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I was kind of wondering if maybe we could all kind of go through, the six of us. Desiree, I mean, you could certainly go first, obviously, but we can talk about the first time we ever met Dave, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in person. It could be, on a video or just talking to him on the phone or whatever. Desiree, you can
go first. You can go first, Rob.
All right. Well, I remember it was 15. It was the end of 2015. And I was in Chicago with a person that I was dating at the time, and I was in a hotel room one night, and I got a call from Johnny Bean, and he says to me, he goes, "Hey, I haven't talked to you forever. It's been a while." I mean, I never met him physically, but I had talked to Johnny since I think first time back in 1998, I think it was. And he said, I do this show with Dave Nesdall, and we should come on sometime. I want to see some of your guitars. And I'm like, Dave Nesdall. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's that guy. Yeah, I know who that is. It's like, he's the guy that's got all these yelling guitars. And he was like, yeah, he's like you. He's got like a ton of them. And I'm like, yeah, I've because I would see Dave's his videos on YouTube, and I was always very enthralled. And it was Brandy, the dog, Dave's dog at the time, would get up and he'd be like, I gotta let Brandy out. Hang on a minute. And he'd wheel his chair over to the door and get up, And I was always so cool because here's this guy and Desiree sitting in the exact same spot, and all these amazing guitars, and Dave was, just playing and jamming and talking, and it was just the neatest thing. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. So I don't recall if it was, I think we were friends on Facebook. I can't quite remember. But prior to doing that show, that first initial show that I did, which would have been in January of 2016, because I was living in my apartment at the time. Prior to that show, which was a Sunday afternoon, I think it was, I got a hold of Dave. And I think it was through Messenger. And I'm like, hey, it's like, I guess I'm going to do a show with you guys. He's like, Rob, how are you? It's like, it was the same thing. Like, I've seen your guitars, been watching your stuff for years. It's great. So it was like this bromance, like right off the bat, like, whoa, you got this, because we had so many similarities and stuff. And he's like, I live in Long Island, which is 3.5 hours away. And I'm like, yeah, I live in Massachusetts, about an hour and a half away from Boston. And we just started chatting. And then we did the first show. And it was fun. And then I was like a regular on it for a couple of years. And then the interesting thing was, though, I remember talking to Dave that at first time before we did the show. And then it was like constant texting every single day, and I hadn't met him yet. And I think we texted and talked on the phone every day for about 3 months. I think it was 2 or 3 months. Maybe it wasn't even that long. Maybe about a month. I don't recall. And this one day he's like, hey, you should come out and hang out some weekend. I'm like, yeah, I definitely can do that. So he got his address, and he's like, I live with this guy named Dennis too, and whatever. And you can meet Dennis. He's a guitar player. He plays in this band. I'm like, oh, cool. Great. So I was like a kid in a candy store. So it was a Friday night. Yeah, it was a Friday night. I got out of work early, and I packed up a whole bunch of guitars, and, I think I had Barney with me at the time. No, I didn't. Barney wasn't even alive yet. And I packed up the guitars and I just got in my car and boom, headed out to Long Island. 3.5 hours later, I pull in the driveway. I'm like, this is cool. And I walk in and there's Dave sitting in the chair. And here he is, like, whoa, this is Dave Nesdall, and a big hug, and it was great. It was in a weird sense, it was almost like meeting a celebrity, just because Dave was all over the place. He was just, I knew his background, I knew how he played, and I knew, his collection. It was just so cool to be able to see someone who had such a history to him and had the collection that he had and so many things in common. And it was just like, we had a great weekend. This is before Desiree came along. And it was just great. We hung out for the whole weekend. And then it was like every other month I would drive out, and we just had this amazing friendship. And, we became like best friends, like right off the bat. And we would argue about stuff. We, get pissed off at each other sometimes. And like, a half hour later, hey dude, like, you're right on that. It was just like, it was the coolest thing. It was like a brother, but I remember that first initial time meeting him. It was just so, I can see it right now. It's him sitting in that chair. But the interesting thing was, and I think we said this a year ago when we did the show after Dave's passing, every single time I would go out to see Dave, and the last time that I saw him, which is when Desiree and Dave came to my house, every time I would actually see him in person, it was just this awesome feeling came, like, whoa, there he is. There he is. And it was just, we always had the greatest time. We really did. It was a blessing to meet him. And he definitely has a part of my heart. And I do believe that he's watching this show right now.
I agree. Want to thank Chad Boston for the super chat. He says, hi, Ben. Hope you're well. I'm doing well, Chad. Hope you're doing well as well. Appreciate that. Awesome. All right. So who will go next?
We're going to go across. Yeah.
Well, I'll jump in here.
Sure,
years ago, bunch of years ago, a friend of mine had a leather store in Huntington, and we'd go by there on Friday nights, and there were generally a few people hanging out. He'd open the bar, and we'd have some drinks and have some fun. And I got a call one Friday night, Len, you really ought to come down because a friend of the house is here with his son, and he's got a guitar with him, and bring your guitar. Maybe you want to play with his son. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go there and have this 9-year-old kid either blow my doors off or have the Mel Bay book under his arm or something. And I got there, and it was Dave sitting there on his Blues Junior, and I had the same thing with me. And well, we had fun. We played. We laughed. We had a few drinks, and that was the beginning of it. But Dave and I automatically fell in as good buds and good friends, and I valued him very much. Day doesn't go by I don't recall a story or something. Like I said, the guitars are staring me right in the face all day, which just kind of adds to the guilt if you're not playing them as much as you should do.
Right.
But yeah, right till the end, I was going to hang out with him as much as I could during the week, and spend some time with him. And he did something to me at the end that nobody ever did to me before. This is tough. I hope I don't adversely affect you, Desiree, but I think I told you this. The last week we were there, I was pumping him up, trying to tell him, come on, man, you got to fight this shit. You can't take this sitting down. You got to get strong and fight against it. He said, Len, you don't understand. He said, I'm dying. And that was Thursday. That was Thursday, 2 or 3 days before. Nobody ever told me that and have it come to fruition anyway, So he shared something with me. Maybe I wish he hadn't, but it took me inside, and it does every time I think about it. I sure miss it.
Lenny, it's funny you said that because I remember, I'll make this quick, but 3 days before he passed, I was actually in Maine. I took off to Maine with my dog for couple of days just to get away. And I remember sitting at this little bar one night and having a margarita on the rocks with salt, just chilling out. My dog was sitting in the car, and Dave calls and he's like, "Hey, we're talking guitars and stuff." And I remember he said, "I'm not feeling so good." And I said, "Really? You all right?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm just not doing good. I'm not feeling well." And I'm like, well, the same thing. I'm like, "You got this." I mean, I was always boosting Dave up. I was telling him, "Get out and walk, do this, do this, do this." And I know he was like, "I can't do all that," and he was always so good. He always lived vicariously through me with the physical stuff, and I took that as such a huge compliment. And I would do everything I could to promote that. But there was definitely something, that phone call, that was the last time I ever talked to him. I remember I got off the phone. I'm like, "All right, dude, I'm heading home tomorrow. I'll chat with you later." And I think we did text 1 or 2 times, but we didn't talk on the phone. And that was the last time I talked to him. But I remember he said, he goes, "I'm not feeling good."
That was Saturday, I think.
Yeah, well, it was a Saturday afternoon, late afternoon, 3
And
o'clock.
then he died that early Monday morning.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go next because I'm the host. So
You're entitled.
thank you. I came across Dave through the Johnny Bean show, like a lot of people did. And I was a guest as well. And that's how the first time I conversed with him. But again, being on a panel is a little different, as you know, Rob, even to like a one-on-one. And Dave was one of the first people I invited on here. And it was like a Monday afternoon. I was bored one day. I was like, I think I'm gonna go live. And I messaged Dave because he's always like, "Hey, I'm around all day. Like, hit me up."
Yeah, he's
all right.
great.
And it's funny because we bonded so well in that first hangout together that it caused a little friction the next night on Johnny's show because, as we do, you get into a show, you talk about this and that. It's not always guitars. And he's like, "Look, I talk more guitars with Ben, blah, blah, blah." And he just goes on this big rant. And it was awesome. We talked about Gibsons. We talked about Telecasters. It wasn't all just AVA stuff. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I think I broke Dave and Johnny. I'm like, okay. And then Dave got out of his system. He's like, "So what's new in the chat?" Like, okay. And yeah, and ever since it was just that, "Hey, I got this. Hey, what do you think of this?" Cherish those conversations so much. Yeah.
So much.
And that was, about 5-6 years ago now. 2018 it would have been spring.
Yeah, that's right. Because Ben, I met you, and that's right. Because I met you in 2019 at the NAMM show when we went to LA. That's first time I met you.
Which that was a dream come true.
It always is meeting me. I mean,
Well, yeah.
Rob.
Everybody had a laugh off of that one because.
Well, you're there to meet celebrities, and I got to meet Rob, so
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh,
I have a
don't
celebrity
say
in my own.
more.
Here's an interesting one, though. Here's the first picture Dave and I ever had taken together. And this was in 2016.
Oh, that's cool, Rob.
Yeah,
Nice.
I had that all ready to go. That's the first picture we had together. That would have been 16. That was the first time I went out. I think his mom took that. I think Bev took that. And I got a million pictures of Dave and I together, but there's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't think of him in some way, shape, or form. Or, Rob Johnson. That's what he always used to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd walk in the door. As soon as I walk in, Rob Johnson. He sounded like it always reminded me of the animated show Monsters Inc. Mike Wazowski, you didn't do your work today. It was always like that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it was so crazy.
I met Dave. I never met Dave in 3D. I told Desiree recently that it's one of my big regrets not being able to attend their wedding, and I had an unfortunate family situation that didn't allow me to be there. And but I too found Dave through the Van Halen community. I actually found Rob first, and then through some different online shows on YouTube, I found Dave, and then I learned that Dave did some tech work and I needed some done. And the whole thing initially began around, look, I coming into the conversation, I really thought I could hold my own with any kind of Van Halen conversation. And I just realized that I wasn't quite as nerdy as any of you dudes. And I learned real fast that it was amateur hour where I was concerned. In terms of the Van, I was more concerned with learning how to play Somebody Get Me a Doctor than what the fretboard radius of the 5150 was. You know, I mean, I didn't know. So Dave gave me a quick crash course in all things technical EVH. And I still find, you know, I found myself, especially over the last year, just revisiting so much of the old content that Dave has given to the world. And Rob, I was in Key West April a year ago when you guys did that deep dive into the 5150 guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, there were points in that show that I was just like, what are we talking about? I mean,
I had to be on the panel, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and smile. That's all I'm doing tonight.
Man, these guys, I mean, you know, man, I mean, they know everything. I mean, everything.
Dave would put you to the test. He would put you to the test. He did me many times.
But, you know, so after that show, I went to Dave and said, hey, do you and Nick have time? I never had a Van Halen. I never had a Stripe guitar before I met Dave.
Yeah.
And I said, would you and Nick have time to build me a guitar? And he was like, no.
It's a flat no.
He was like, it's a year, man. It's going to take us a year. But he pointed me in the direction of a great builder, and I developed a rapport and a friendship with this builder. But Dave remained very consultative during that whole thing because it was very important to get it right. Mm-hmm. And I remember Dave, and it was the last project that we worked on together, and it's this guitar right here. Nice. And Dave lost his cookies with me when I said, "Look, I don't want that thing painted sunset orange." What? Oh. You don't what? No, I don't want. I want it. I'm going to play it on stage, so I want it to read red. He was like, "Yeah, but that's not Eddie's color.
Does not compute. That's not compute.
Can't do it." Or the white, even the white that he had the special white too that would age well.
Wimbledon white, yes.
Wimbledon white. That's it. And see what I mean? These guys know everything. And but everything else was, you know, everything else was in place. But he just could not get on board with my choice for it to go a little more red. And he even talked to the builder. He was like, who I would say his name. I just don't know if it's okay if I say it. But and he did such a fabulous job on the guitar. But I when I spec'd everything with Dave, and I said, all right, so here's how it's going to lay out, and here's what we're doing, and it was in progress, and the builder was the builder's just top shelf, and Dave was like, yeah, it's all great except the color.
I will say Dave over the years did learn to hold his tongue on certain things, because somebody would show off a replica guitar and it's like, yeah, that's great. You know, and it was that Dave enthusiasm. And then we'd end the show. He goes, that stripe was off by 1/8 of an inch here. This stripe was too wide. This one was missing. I'm just sure, Dave. That scratch wasn't. I'm like, okay, Dave, you know.
So funny. The first time I actually met him, you know, we're talking about stuff, and I remember I thought I was the shit. I know everything. There's nothing I don't know. That's what I thought. And then we're sitting there, and he's going off. He's like, well, I don't know about that because it's whatever. This, you know, this was a Seymour Duncan custom or whatever. This was a, you know, Schaller Golden 50 or whatever. I'm like, whoa. I guess I got to up my game a little bit. So him and I always had this competition, and it was always a great day when Dave Nesdall would be like, You were right. You were right about that. You know, it was very rare.
Or that's a nice guitar, Rob. Now I want it.
Yeah.
What do you want of mine? Because yours is better than mine. And the two of you would constantly sue. I know you two had like some of the best replicas because you kept one-upping each other.
Well,
Yes.
because it was very rare that Dave and I ever disagreed on a Van Halen topic. It was very rare. But the times that we had little different ideas, we would both go to work, and within an hour we'd have an answer. And it was funny, but yeah, every time I'd do a new guitar, I'd go down and show Dave. I remember, if Dave hadn't passed, Desiree, you probably remember this. He was looking at my new Circles guitar, the Unchained, which is Midnight Blue. It is Midnight Blue. No, I'm not going to go down there. This is about Dave. But I remember Dave sitting there and he's looking at it, sitting on my couch going, and I could just see the gears going. And he's like, yeah, I need one of these.
I remember that.
Meanwhile, the previous 6 months to a year, Des, you and I were hearing, "Oh, I'm getting rid of all the stripe stuff. You know, I'm just going to go for more the vintage. I'm done with it." And he's like, "So I was talking with Rob Johnson, and now
exactly, yep."
Well, that's why I got
it again.
Yeah, because I always said, if you ever want it back, you know, it stays in the family. It's here, you know, and we can just do another one. And Dave and I always had this, you know, I can't tell you how many guitars of mine Dave got and how many guitars of his I ended up with. And that's the one thing I can honestly say when I go down to my guitar room and all the guitars and, you know, heads and everything and cabs that I do have that were from Dave. It's just amazing. And there's pictures of him and I on the wall. And, you know, it's not about the gear. It's about the person. But to have something that played such a huge part in his life and to be able to have that for the rest of my life, you know, it's amazing. And I can honestly say I have never since I have never sold a guitar that I got from Dave. I think there's a couple I did, but when Dave was alive, we would talk about it. But since his passing, there's never been anything I've gotten rid of. And I don't think I really, it's just so special to me. And it's an honor to have such a huge Van Halen collection and have so many of them be from Dave, because he had the best of the best.
Well, I think at this point, it would be safe to say, Rob, like your collection is basically the best of your collection in Dave's in many ways.
Yeah.
Because I know the pieces he was moving in the last year, like you were his first call type thing. Like,
he would call me initially. Hey, I'm getting rid of this Hot for Teacher. Hey, I'm getting rid of this Hard Rock 85 or this, you know, this 84 or whatever. And I had them all, and they were all great. But I knew every little nook and cranny on the stuff that Dave had, and 99% of his were just a little bit, you know, there was one little stripe or one little tiny stupid thing that 90% of people would be like, what are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with that. But me being that kind of, you know, perfectionist, like, yeah, I want it. And I'd sell mine and then I'd get his. And, you know, but I looked at it as an honor to have his stuff. You know, I really treasured that, you know.
And welcome everyone that's been joining in throughout the show. We got 88 people watching. Nice. Wow. Please leave a thumbs up for Dave. Not for me, for Dave.
You know, I love the fact that I could send Dave a guitar. I would send so many guitars to Dave, and he would do whatever needed to be done. File a nut. And it didn't matter. I mean, I remember I sent him this. I sent him a couple custom shop Fenders. I was on a country gig at the time. I was doing weekend dates with a country band, and I sent him 2 Tellys and a Strat all at once. And I was like, look, I need this done. Do you have time to do this? And he was like, oh, yeah, just send it all up here. And I was spending a fortune in shipping back and forth up there. But I was always so impressed at how well he could set up a Floyd Rose guitar, but equally impressed with his understanding of things I would gig with, whether it be, I've got a lot of Les Pauls, whether it be a Les Paul, a 335, an SG, or an old Telecaster. My favorite Telecaster is this old Telecaster made in Japan. It's not even American. But I like it better than the custom shop stuff I have. Sent it to Nesdal, and he's like, "This is one of the best Telecasters I've ever played. This is great." And it came back to me, and Dennis, and I mean, it came back. It was perfect. It was perfect. I don't know what he whispered into the guitar, but they always came back superb.
He had a knack to him on his setups, and I learned so much from him. Him and I have the same. We both loved a super, super low action, almost to the point of buzzing. That's just how we both liked it. And Dave, I would bring my guitars down to Dave, and I would always say, "Do I really want to bring this one down to have him set it up? Because I'm going to end up not leaving with it, because he's going to want it." But I would bring my guitars down to him, and he would just do this magic. You're right, Ty. He just would mess around with it, and he taught me so much about setting. I set all my own stuff up right now, and I would honestly say that 90% of the things that I do, I learned from Dave. I know Craig from CHS Custom Guitars came to my place a few months back, and he had one of his guitars, and I'm sitting there jamming on it. He was bringing me one of mine because he was doing some work for me. I'm like, "Dude, you got to do this. You got to take this crap off the Floyd. We got to do this." And he's like, "Oh, you sure?" Or whatever. I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "This is something that Dave taught me." And he's like, "All right, okay." I'm like, "If you don't like it, I'll just put it back." So I did. I sat down on my kitchen table, and I just did some stuff and did just what Dave taught me. And I got it exactly where I wanted. And that, I got that Floyd Rose where it was like, you can hear it hitting the body. And it was like butter. The action was low. And it had this resonance to it. And you would hit a chord, and acoustically, I think the best way. Dave always told me that don't worry about the amplifier. If you hit a chord on an electric guitar and you hear it just ring and feel that magic of it acoustically, it's good. Mm-hmm. And I always subscribed to that ever since I learned from Dave, and I did it. And I got Craig's guitar set, and he's like, "Whoa!" He's like, "I can't believe this." And he's like, "I would see your shows and you would talk about this, but you're right." And that's something I learned from Dave. He had this magic that he knew how to set a guitar up. It was just something special.
It really is.
You got to plug it in and play the wood before you plug it in. You got to play the wood.
Yep. Totally.
You get to hear its voice.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Dennis, how did you meet Dave?
I met Dave. See, it's interesting. I have a much different relationship because I met Dave in the mid-90s. He was there's a music store out here on the island called New York Music Emporium. It used to be Focus 2 Guitar Centers. And when I was a kid, when he and I were kids, and same owner, Charlie Lavarco, and I was just I used to teach there, and Dave was in one day. Just I think I was in between lessons and I was playing guitar, and he was in, and he came over to me, and we just started chatting. He liked the way I was playing, and then like from that moment on, we were instant friends with one another, and it grew to the same level like you guys had with Van Halen stuff. I mean, with us, it was more like it was Fenders and Gibsons and vintage guitars and all all of that. But he started coming to see my band, because we had mutual friends and guys like Rob Jack and Billy Gaddle, and they used to come and see my band, and Dave would come around, and like from there our friendship just grew to where we spoke pretty much every day, and it was guitar related, 9 times out of 10. I mean, let's bring over all the Telecasters we got today. Let's set them all up, like line them all up and look at the colors, and just like a couple of geeks, like, "Oh, look at that." Well, yeah, it was endearing and also wasted an incredible amount of time, but in a good way. It was fun. It was really fun. But I can remember one of my earliest memories of Dave is him sitting in with my band, the band I had in the 90s, at a bar gig, and he came rolling in. One of the first guitars I remember he had was a 61 Stratocaster, a real 61 Strat.
Wow.
When he got rid of it, he regretted that.
Sure.
He told me, I want to say within the year before he passed, he said, "I should have never sold that one. That was a good guitar." We've all said that. But
Had it been refretted and flattened at that point, Dennis,
Yeah,
or was it still round?
It had big frets on it. I don't know. I can't remember. I mean, I remember playing it. It sounded great, but he waltzed into this gig with 2 amplifiers. He played in stereo. He had 2 black-faced Vibrolux reverbs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Now, I like loud. I play loud. That was like a whole other level. I was actually like, we're approaching jet engine, and it sounded great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was awesome. That was one of my earliest memories of Dave. Like him just like taking off with that guy, that Strat. I mean, he sounded great. A lot of people don't realize. I guess by the time he had started doing this, his show, he was really a great guitar player. He was a really great singer. His sense of pitch was incredible. And he sang a lot, and he'd sit in with my band. We'd sing a few tunes. We'd just stay up, we'd have fun. We'd have so much fun with gear. I mean, that '61 Stratocaster, that was a good one. He had a gold top Les Paul in like the 2000 and I don't know if it was 2010 to 2012 or 13. That was a really cool guitar.
Was that the one he ran over in the parking lot, Dennis? He ran over one.
I know he ran over one. It might have been
Larry Fitzgerald has that.
That wasn't a real one. I remember that. I think that was a reissue that he ran over. That was a custom shop reissue.
Still.
He ended up trading that real gold top of 56 or something like that for something else, for a few other things maybe.
Yeah.
How did he run over a guitar? I mean, I know he ran over it, but how did he do that?
He loaded up his truck and he forgot it was on the ground.
Yeah, he's not paying attention.
It can happen.
So that was, I mean, and so it wasn't only guitars too, but like, we would go out to eat together. Like he became friends with musicians that I would do gigs with, like my buddy Greg Smith, the bass player, Ted Nugent's bass player, and we would go out. Yeah. Greg introduced us to the sandwich, this chicken cutlet, broccoli rabe sandwich that we get at a pizza place out here on the island. That was it was unreal. And cheese, I was like, forget it. It was he loved it. We would. I mean, he and I just talked about everything. It wasn't, Van Halen really wasn't a thing between he and I. I mean, it was occasionally, but not really. It was much more about, there was live stuff, girlfriends. It was everything, but largely it was guitars, and we would just do a similar kind of thing where we would get together and look at each other's guitars. Well, that's cool. This and then we would talk. Maybe we would bicker a little bit about stuff, but no, we never really bickered, And Dave was the kind of guy. I mean, you guys know. I mean, he'd give you the shirt off his back. Yeah. And you want to borrow anything, what's yours is mine, and I would say the same thing to him.
No doubt.
And he got me into Les Pauls, sometime in the mid to I was in like the late '90s. He had a Les Paul. It was probably '99, and he had a Les Paul, like a lemon drop Les Paul, that custom shop Les Paul. That I just, hey man, can I check that out? And he let me use it on a gig, and I was hooked. I had a PRS at the time, a McCarty, that was actually a really cool guitar, but something about that Les Paul, and he got me into that. So I could thank him for that. But we both had that, guitar acquisition syndrome or gear acquisition syndrome problem.
Gas.
Gas. You had. He had something. Oh, I want one of those, and vice versa.
Yeah, right.
Dennis, he could pick winners too. Like he could pick winners. I remember I would get phone calls from him. I would get expensive phone calls from him that he would say, "Ty, I'm so and so, and they've got this incredible Les Paul.
Yeah,
you have to buy this guitar."
Right.
And I'm like, well, I've got half a dozen of them. What am I going to do with one more? Yeah, but this is the one.
Yeah, thanks to Dave Nesdall, my bank account savings.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean, the last conversation I had with him, so you were talking about, was May 1st, 7:07 p.m. He and I were talking Firebirds, and I showed him a video of Johnny Winter talking about his Firebird. It was 7 o'clock. That was 6 hours later, 7 hours later. Because the next morning I knew I had gotten up to fly to San Antonio for a gig. And yeah, he and I were just chatting about it. I shot him the video, and because I was looking at getting the Firebird maybe, which I never happened, but we were going back and forth on it the way we do, the way we always did,
Yeah, I do.
May 1st.
I remember when I told him I was gigging in a country band, he was like, "Well, can you do any chicken picking?" And I was like, "Well, I can, sorta. I mean, if you're expecting me to be Greg Koch, I'm not going to do that. But I do it. I do it in a hybrid way with adjacent strings." And he was like, "Well, FaceTime me and show me what you're doing." And I was showing him what I was doing. He was like, "That's pretty good. Let me send you a video of my friend Dennis." And he sends me a video of you. You're not chicken picking at all. You're Travis picking.
Oh,
I was like, Dave, that's like such a different level of what I'm doing.
Yeah, it was funny. Dennis brought up a really interesting point too about Dave being a great singer. I remember Desiree and Dave came to Pete's house one summer for a big party he had, and we would always migrate downstairs and play guitar. And he had this drum set up and the rig, the wet guy wet, and all the crazy stuff. So we were all down there jamming, and I remember we were playing. It was my turn to play guitar, so I said, "Oh, let's do Judgment Day." So I'm playing Judgment Day, and I forget who was on drums and whatever. And we needed a singer, and I'd never heard Dave sing before. I just hadn't. I'd never heard Dave sing. It just wasn't something we talked about. I mean, I think we might have talked about, I can sing a little bit, whatever. And I didn't even know. I thought we were just going to do the instrumental. So I'm just sitting there, I'm good sitting doing the whatever, I'm doing the intro. And next thing I know, "It's my life, get off my ass." I'm like, "Who the fuck is singing?" And I look over, this fucking Dave standing there. I'm like, "Oh!" And I stuttered, and I missed a couple of because I'm looking with freaking dude can sing, and he sang freaking Judgment Day. And I played the song. I was like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Holy crap!" That's the first time, and I think the only time I heard Dave sing. And he freaking knocked it out of the park. He sounded like Sammy Hagar. I'm like, "Holy shit, the guy can freaking sing."
Rob, his ears were so good. He had great ears.
He did.
Yeah. He was also a natural tenor, which is rare. Natural, but pure tenors and pure basses are quite rare. Most of us kind of fall in the baritone range to varying degrees. He was a tenor. And the last time I think I ever heard him singing was he and I were living together there at the time, and I had come in. He was in the kitchen at the kitchen table, sitting down with an acoustic guitar. I think one his dad had bought him, like a really nice Martin. It was probably a D42, or it might have been a D45. It was like a
45.
I think it was a 45, right? It was a beautiful guitar. It had some kind of aura imaging system on it, whatever, and it was a beautiful guitar. And he was singing "Running on Faith" by Eric Clapton. It was the last time I can recall him, and he was by himself. He didn't realize that I was there, and he sounded fantastic.
He sang the shit out of that.
Yeah,
and he also loved doing "I Shot the Sheriff."
Yeah,
and he just made it a whole different song with his vocals.
Yeah,
really sang it well.
Yeah, he really did.
Awesome. I didn't know.
Great. We'd be working through something. We would talk mostly when he was in dialysis. We would talk just about a lot about gear, but we would talk about songs, and we'd talk about song structure and so forth. And I was fiddling through something. We were talking on the phone one time, and he said, "Are you playing an F sharp?" I'm like, "How did you hear that?" You know, I mean, and he just nailed the note. And I remember just being struck by that. You know, it's one thing if I say, Dennis, we're going to play, you know, we're going to play 1-4-5 in F sharp, and then we take off on a, you know, from there. But the fact that, you know, he heard that one chord in over the phone in that context, I was just struck at how sharp his ears were.
Yeah. He had really good ears and an excellent sense of pitch. He was, you know, I can remember when we were living together, I was working up Jerry's Breakdown, a Jerry Reed instrumental. And I was just practicing it, getting up the tempo and whatnot. And I was pushing myself, you know, and he was off to the side. Like, I remember, like, I'm playing through it and I'm kind of chasing the click instead of owning it. I'm chasing the click. I'm trying to, and he's like, yeah, because you're not really there yet. And I kind of like gave him a look, you know, like a slap on the glass. I'm like, yeah, no. He can laugh. I'm like, I know, you know. But
it's not like you're working through smoke on the water or anything, right?
No.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was fun, and a lot of I love the way he laughed. Like I can make him laugh for whatever reason. I don't know what it was. It was something about the way I would deliver something or my sound effects or whatever. He would laugh.
He had a great
hard, you know. And we just, he was like definitely like a you know, like a guy's guy. He liked hanging out with the guys.
Oh, he could tell some great jokes too.
Oh, he really could.
Especially at night, we'd be sitting in the living room. Sometimes Desiree would be there. Sometimes she'd go in the other room. Like, I don't want to listen to you two retards.
Oh my God.
Whatever. We'd be sitting there, and he'd tell some joke, and then, I mean, you could not embarrass Dave. I mean, there was no joke or anything that was offbeat in any way, shape, or form. You know, oh my gosh, he would laugh.
There was nothing worse than 2 minutes before going live, and Dave's like, "Oh, before we go live, I got a joke, and I can't tell it on air." I'm like, "Don't save it for after the show because I'd be busting the gut." You know, we're trying to start the show, and I can barely hold it together. Zeke, thank you very much. He says he's checking in from the emergency room. Positive vibes for your father. Dad's in the hospital.
Wishes.
Rest in peace, Dave. God bless you all. Thinking of your dad, Zeke.
Yeah, totally. Thoughts and prayers.
Appreciate that.
He had a great sense of humor. He was just so much fun, and like, there was one of the best things too. Was like what I always got a kick out of was when Dave would get annoyed. When he would get annoyed, he would like shut down and like he'd sit there and like,
woo.
I'm taking my toys and I'm going home. You know, and it's like if you were one of those, he wouldn't do that with everybody. You had to be a special person, you know, to see that part of Dave. And you know, it would only last like maybe 10 minutes. And if you knew how to like penetrate his personality, and you know, and you were part of his soul, which I think I was, you know, it didn't last. And I'd be like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" He'd be like. He would just kind of come right back to, he'd snap right back to, and it was so funny. But he would get annoyed, and he had this thing about him, like he'd clam up.
I'd see it on shows, and I think Ty, we'd end a show, you know, the three of us, and be like, "Oh, that show was terrible," and you know, we'd be in this big huff, and like, "Oh, it was terrible," and we're like, "No, it was pretty good, Dave." "Oh, you think so?" Because he was always so hard on himself. We're like, "No, it was great, Dave." "Oh, okay," and it's just.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the one thing constant about Dave is and Ben, you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know what was more fun with Dave personally, like preparing for a YouTube event or planning the YouTube event. He was so passionate about this audience.
Oh yeah.
To ensure that the content that he created and that he delivered was going to help somebody.
Yeah.
And I just always appreciated that mindset from him.
Yeah.
That he never let all of the exterior distractions, you know, kind of get in the way. His focus was this audience, all the people in this chat right here. and how good can I make it this week? Can I give them something that means, if they're going to spend an hour of their time with me or 2 hours of their time, will it be meaningful? And I always appreciated that about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the show was everything to him. I remember one time I guess I got my channel, but I'm spotty. You know, I was never like organized like all you guys. You know, I was never like, I mean, every Wednesday night. I mean, when I was on Johnny's show with Dave, I made a point to be there, but then I just couldn't keep up with it. So I had my own channel. I just would jump on whenever, and Dave would get on my channel sometimes. But I'd go like a couple of months, and then all of a sudden, boom, I do a show. I remember this one day I was at work, and it was a day that Ty, I don't remember if you were doing the show with Dave or if Ben, you were doing the show with Dave. But there was a show where, you know, Dave had his spot. It was that night. And stupid me, I didn't know. I'm like, I'm going to do a show on this particular guitar or whatever, you know. So I remember I said something, and then Dave he calls me. He's like, hey, my show's on at that time. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm so no. I'm not doing it.
He was mad.
Yeah, he was freaking pissed. And of course, and stupid me, no clue, because I don't, you know, whatever. I'm just going to do a show. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do it. And then he calls me back like 10 minutes. I didn't mean to yell at you or whatever, you know, or whatever. I'm like, no, you're right. I don't know. And I think I ended up jumping on that show with him that night. But, you know, I think it's important to note that as much as Dave's passion was the guitars and the shows, and like Ty, like you said, you know, making sure the information was put out in a very effective way, you know, for the folks watching. I think the most important thing to note is he would have given all of that up for Desiree.
No question.
Family. There was nothing that was more important to him, as much as he loved those guitars and all that stuff and the shows. If those dogs and Desiree and his family were that was the priority, and that came first. And I know that for a fact because he told me that many, many times. Him and I had a lot of intimate conversations on, you know, him coaching me on my stupid choices of girlfriends and, and things, you know, and dumb things that I was doing, but having a lot of fun. And Dave was like, hey, you're having a great time. Enjoy yourself. Thank goodness I finally settled down and found the right one. But I will say that Dave's passion was his family and the people that were close to him.
Yeah.
Desiree,
Definitely.
100% you.
Definitely.
I will say this though, because I remember when I first moved in, there were 3 cats and a dog. And you know, me not really being a cat, I could take or leave cats more than often than not leave. I love Brandy to death, and you know, Brandy loved me. I mean, I love that. I loved her.
Great dog. Great
the
dog.
Cats, Eddie, Alex, and Sammy. You know, Alex was the most affable.
Perfect.
Yeah, Alex was the most affable of the 3. Eddie existed to eat and go to the bathroom.
Well, it's like the real Eddie, play guitar. That's all he did.
That's all Eddie did, and he had a weird. And then Sammy was like he was the young punk who would beat up on Alex, and but I used to like you know, Dave. This is one thing I sort of cherish this moment, because I'd wake up in the morning and I could hear him, like, or I was in the living room, like I'd get up and Alex had puked in the kitchen. And in the living room, oh my God, Dave, we got some puke here. Or like one of them, you know, he's got to clean the litter box, and he hated it. He hated doing it. He never wanted to do it. You know, his mom would do it more often than not. But a couple of like, you know, every now and again, Dave would have to do it, and he would retch every time. Like I could hear him like, oh, like I could hear him, and I would be laughing. I'm in the other room like, you wanted him.
I'm laughing because I did the same thing with my cat, because my cat only throws up in my studio, only room in the house.
Right.
Dennis, you know, one thing that's funny though is if somebody just jumped into this conversation and didn't hear the first part of it and had knew nothing about it, they would think we're talking about a frat house.
Oh yeah, totally.
With Eddie, Dave, Sammy throwing up on the floor and wrenching.
Totally. I mean, like I just there was something I took. I mean, I love Dave dearly, you know, but I took great pleasure in the fact like you wanted the cats, you got to clean up their crap and their puke. They're your cats.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Me, I would have sent them packing. Well, maybe not Alex. I would have kept Alex. Alex was cool.
He was cool. He was so good. Now Sammy's good now. He wasn't when I moved in. I didn't like him either.
How old is Sammy now? How old? I mean, ish. I mean, 15, 20. I mean,
no. I don't,
like 2010. Mom says 10.
Okay, so it's probably probably 12. Yeah, 13.
He was definitely he was the young one.
But he's not
get
now.
angry at him for picking on Alex, you know, because it
He was a
happens
shit.
all of the time. I have a confession to make because Bev is there, right?
Yes.
I threw a spoon at Sam once for picking on Alex.
Is that why he's afraid of everything? Because of you?
I hit him square in the head too. I actually felt bad.
Oh my baby!
I felt bad after. Like, oh geez, because I didn't like. I didn't want to hit him. I wanted to get near him, and I flung the thing, and it hit him square in the top, like right in the head. And I felt bad because then he kind of backed off and he turned and looked at me like, you know, what the hell? I was like, leave Alex alone.
Yeah.
He's the cool one. You're a pain in the ass.
You know, it's funny you talk about Bev, and if Bev's there, hey Bev, how are you? Can't wait to see you sometime soon. But I remember, I don't remember if I'd met. No, I think I'd met Dave. I'd been out there a couple of times, and I remember Dave was doing a show, and I was on the show, and I think Bev came in to like feed the dog or something or whatever. Desiree, before you came there, and we were live on the show, and she's saying something. He's like right in the middle of the show. He's like, "Ma, I'm doing a show," you know, whatever. He starts laughing. It's like, it's classic. It was like, what was that show?
That's like that movie. Was it Wedding Crashers? Right?
Yeah.
It was like
the meatloaf.
Raymond.
The meatloaf.
Yeah, but it was like Big Bang Theory when what's his name would go home and the mother's like, you know, whatever, doing something. He's like, "Mom, I'm not doing that." Whatever.
But it's also like everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
Well,
Man,
Dennis, let me ask
I was-
you a Nesdal question. Are you wearing an Emerald City T-shirt?
I am.
No. Oh, Dennis?
Look at there.
Yep.
I was in Seattle in 2019.
Okay. Yeah. So Kurt in the chat pointed me to Emerald City Guitars last summer, and
I'll be right back.
I hung out with Trevor for half a day, played a lot of amazing guitars, walked out with one, put a huge dent in my bank account.
Right.
But yeah, great guitar store for sure.
Great guitar shop. I was there for a few hours. I played a 60 Les Paul. I played a 52. I played a couple of I played a 64 Strat, a 65 Telly. Both were candy apple red. Like I played some really. It was a fun day. There were very friendly people there.
Great people.
And I got this T-shirt.
Yeah,
all guitars that
great
Jay Hannon would hate to play.
Wait, who told you about that place?
Kurt did. Kurt told me about it.
Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt should have gotten the sales commission
Dennis.
from Trevor on my day there.
How's everybody doing?
Hey, Jay, how are you?
I was waiting for the right moment to pop in. I was like, I don't know if there's going to be a right moment. So I just said, fuck it, I'm coming in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Jay.
Good to see you guys too.
So when Rob gets
Thanks for
back,
having
I'll
me.
tell the story about how I met David, and I'll say the David's version, even though it makes me sound horrible. I'll give you the David version when Rob gets back.
That works.
It makes you sound horrible.
Yes, because the way he always said it makes me sound like a. Well, I'll say it like a whore. It's like it was horrible. I'm like, babe, don't say the story like that. You make me sound horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah, horrible.
I've heard the story, Des, and at times it's kind of like he pinpoints the exact moment in Des's life when she decided to move on. I swear.
And the way he says it, like he would change it. It depends who we were around. He would change it. And I'm like, you can't say things like that. That's not what happened. Well, it did happen like that. You just don't want. I'm like, no, it didn't. Okay, so Rob's back. So it was 2017. And I was going through a divorce. And so my ex-husband used to watch the show with David and Johnny Bean and Rob. So one night I sent them all. So one night I sent them all a friend request, and of course, everybody accepted. So at first I became friends with Rob, and we would talk quite a bit. And then David would like message me and stuff, and I'm like, "Hey, Rob, David seems really nice, but what do you know about him?" I'm like, because everything I say I've been through, he'd be like, "Yeah, I've been through that," and I'm like, "No, you haven't. There's no way you've been through some of the stuff." Yeah. I've done that. Typical Dave. Yeah. I've done that. And so I'm like, "Rob, tell me about Dave. Tell me more about him." And of course, he's like, "He's a really good guy. You should talk to him. He's really sweet, really nice." So the divorce happens and it's final. And me and Dave started talking. He's like, "I really like you. What do you think about coming visit me in New York?" So I'm like, "Sure, I'll come visit you." So on his birthday in 2017, I came up here, and I wasn't looking for a relationship. I'm like, it'd be cool to have a friend. So he picked me up.
You weren't looking for nub?
Yeah, I wasn't looking around. I was like, no, man. No offense to all of you. I was like, I did not want, I don't want to be with any man. Or woman, let me clarify. So I got in the car, and he it was like the sweetest thing. Goes, "Can I hold your hand?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then it was instant. Right then I knew. And it was weird because I never really believed in that whole love at first sight kind of thing. And I was like getting the butterflies, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then he's telling Rob and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Desiree's gonna move to New York." So typical Dave, he could talk you into anything, right? I told him when I got back home, I'm like, "I'm not moving to New York. I'm never getting married again. And it just isn't going to happen." I'm like, "I don't want anything like that." So as you all know, in 2017, I moved to New York. And in 2021, I got married. So it's like you couldn't tell Dave no, because he was going to talk you into it no matter what. So that's the short version. So yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, he, like Rob said, when he got mad, he was shut down, and 10 minutes later, he's fine. Me being a woman, I'm like, "I'm not fine. I want to know why you're acting like this."
Desiree, you remember that night? I think it was maybe, oh gosh, it was maybe a year before, he passed. Maybe so 2 years ago, whatever. You remember that time? I don't remember if I came out alone or if I had a visitor with. Doesn't matter. But remember that time I came out? I think I was alone, and I had Barney, and Dave, and Dave was. Oh gosh. Oh, I know what it was. We had went out to dinner or something. The three of us. To that pizza place. That's what it was.
Yes.
And we came back. We're hanging around, and Dave and I are going to play guitar, and you would just be, whatever. You'd get sick of us, then you'd go do your thing or whatever, and we'd end up going to bed at like 2 a.m. I'm like, dude, it's like I'm like passed out at like midnight, and Dave just wants to keep on trucking. But when we were driving back, and I think Dave drove, he got he had this guitar deal that I forget which one it was, but there was a guitar he was supposed to be getting. And as we're driving back, he gets a text message that the deal fell through for whatever. The guy didn't want to sell it or whatever the deal was. And we're driving back, and he went from being like up here to like here, and he was fucking pissed.
I remember that.
And he shut down whatever. And we got back to your place around like 8 at night, whatever. And we get Dave in, and of course I go make a drink, and we're just sitting in the living room, and he was just like, ugh. And he sat in that chair, and he wouldn't talk to anybody or whatever. And you and I were talking, like we're joking about stuff, and finally I'm like, "Dave, it's okay. It's not, there'll be another one that'll come along or whatever." But he took that so seriously. And I remember finally Desiree got pissed. And she was in the kitchen feeding the animals or whatever. I'm sitting out there with Dave, and Dave was just like clammed up. He wouldn't say anything. And Desiree comes out and she's like, you have your friend here. He doesn't really want to see you like this. And she just went up one side of him, down the other, and chewed his freaking ass. And was like, knock it off. It's like, if I was Rob, I'd go home right now or whatever. And then I'm sitting there like,
Rob, I think you left an important part out here. I think what added to Dave's pissed off mood was that you got back and you had greasy pizza fucking hands and you played one of his guitars without washing.
That was another time.
Oh, that was another time. Oh, okay.
I forgot about that time. But it's so funny because Desiree went up one side, him down the other, and then like he just sat there in silence. And I'm like, "Hey, you okay?" He's like, "I will be in a minute." And it's like it just kind of like went off, like the fog cleared, and then he was fine. He was back to Dave.
There'll be other guitars, Dave, but not that one.
The pizza hands, Jay's all right. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes,
He was not happy about that.
I was so mad. I'm like, quit being an ass. Stop. I'm like, he came all the way here to see you. Quit being an ass. Just stop it.
I remember, yeah.
I'm like, you'll get another one. Probably in 2 days. You probably already had one ordered. No one knows about it. You're gonna be fine. You wouldn't keep it very long anyways.
Desiree, he asked me one time, he said, does Heather get mad when you're making so many guitar deals?
Yeah.
I was like, on every single one of them.
Yeah.
He goes, how long y'all been married? Well, we've been together 25 years. Wait a minute. This doesn't get better after 25 years?
I remember Dave and I talking about ways to trick our wives or our girlfriends into, like, you know, getting a new guitar day. And I remember I said, and Dave's like, oh, I knew that one, because I was like, oh, what I used to do when I was married is, you know, I'd take a empty guitar case out and I'd be like, hey, man, this guitar worked on. Then I come back with a new guitar and nobody would know.
Oh my God.
He's like, oh, I knew that one. I've done that a million times. He's like, so funny.
Yeah, I was just over there, last night, and Des, looking at at his cowboy hats, because you're getting rid of a bunch of clothing, right, and whatnot, and then we got into the guitar closet where all the cases are, right, and he's got a bazillion guitar straps.
Yes,
I cannot believe the amount of guitar straps he had, and she kind of looking at them, and I'm like, oh wow, these are ones I remember him gigging with. Like, these were like, I always remember he had these on, and most of them, like, I can remember when he got, certain ones, but there were two that in particular that he wore all the time when he was gigging, and they felt like it. They were leather, and they just felt worn in, but I remember like flipping through them, and then she told me that she found a box full of more straps in the closet.
yes.
Really? So she showed me, and I was like, oh wow, I kind of remember some of these, and I was thinking, looking at the straps, like, and I can remember doing this not long after he passed. I was there and I was working on one of his guitar. Like, I was just checking out the guitars and setting them up and making sure everything was fine with them, and I was setting up one of the guitars, and I had let Desiree know that you got to mind the humidity in your place, because that will affect guitars more than temperature. I mean, temperature to some degree, but humidity for sure. Yeah. I said, so I went to make an adjustment on one of the guitars, and I had to loosen the truss rod. I needed to bring the action up, and it was out. That was it. Like, the nut just went loose. And I actually, because it was within the month of him, not moving on, shall we say. I actually, shouted an expletive out loud, which I can't say right now, but I was just like, what the, Dave, as if he was there. Like if I could just look at him like, what the hell? What do you let this happen? And it's always very endearing. I talk to him. I often, like, every day, just about every day, I think of him, because, it's like I see some cool guitar or something, like, oh, I wish I could.
I know.
I want to share this with.
Same.
I want to share this with him, or but that moment last night, Desiree, and I'm looking at the straps, and the same thing. I wanted to be like, what the? Dave?
I think we both said that.
How many straps do you need?
Dennis, he sent me a couple of
everybody
straps.
on this panel still has Dave's phone number in their phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of it, right?
No,
You can't get rid of it.
I still have that text thread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
Same.
like, and that thread goes back, I don't know how far, but it's months at least,
Yeah, I still got mine too. Crazy.
The
I know
damnedest
most
thing
of
is
mine
when
just
you
say,
think of
"Hey,
something
can I
that you
call you?
want to say to
Hey,
him,
can I call you?"
you see his
There's always
number
a
and
phone
you
call.
go to hit it,
Yeah.
and it's
Dave was the last of the guys that used their phone as a phone. You
Oh,
have
yeah.
phone calls with David Nesdall.
Somebody
Yeah.
said it earlier in the chat about how much he liked to talk on the phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Tom was in hospital a while back there, Dave would call him every day, every single day, keep him company, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I can say I really was thinking Dave a lot recently myself. Like I've got some things with my family with health issues, so I've been basically home myself for the last year, we'll say. And recently, I got a caregiver that comes in once a week that allows me to go out and have some time to myself. So I do an adventure every week, and I pick a different town within, say, an hour and a half, and you find some pawn shops, music stores, whatever, a little mini guitar safari. And the amount every single week, there's at least one. I'm like, oh, Dave would totally get a kick out of this, I'm like, and I go and take a photo. I'm like, dang it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and Chad just said in the chat, he goes, I always texted and he would always say, just call me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a whole bunch of questions probably in the chat that we haven't got to. I'll just go out on record and say, I know we've all been looking at them. But I guess we're all just kind of reminiscing over Dave.
Yeah. And I've been reading the comments too, Rob, and most of it's like comments as opposed to questions or, it's just adding to the conversation. And I appreciate that. We've got a couple times we had 100 people watching here. So
yeah, there really hasn't been any. You're right, Ben. There really hasn't been any questions. There's just been a lot of comments and a lot of hellos and reminiscing over Dave. And just so everybody knows, we're reading them all and we're taking them all in, for sure.
Hey, I wouldn't own a Wolfgang if it wasn't for Dave, and that was because I had a friend that had a Wolfgang and a Music Man that he was getting rid of, Rob, because he was getting rid of not playing anymore, right? So I'm like, I know a little bit about them, but like I don't know, especially what they're worth. So immediately, I'm like, I said to the guy, "Can I take some photos?" Boom, send Nesdal, which immediately was, "Call me." Okay. Well, what you got there? It's this, and this, and blah blah blah. It's worth this, and blah, blah. And he's like, "That's your guitar." I was like, because it was a hardtail Wolfgang, because I'm a hardtail guy, right? And he's like, "You're gonna love that guitar. You're gonna bond with it." And that Music Man, that's a great guitar. Yeah, you're gonna bond with that. I'm like, well, I think I'm just gonna pick him up to flip, Dave. To be honest with you, that was in 2019, Rob, and I have them both. In fact, they went into a recording session last week. Those were the two guitars I took to a recording session. So
yeah, that's so awesome.
Thanks, Dave.
It's funny because I would always reach out to Dave too. I mean, I know my prices and what I think I believe things are worth and how to do things. And it's funny because I would do the same thing. I mean, Dave and I would text back and forth a lot, but we both had this thing. Like if we really were going to get into a lot of information, one of us would just call each other because it was just easier, because sometimes one of us was driving or at work or whatever. And it's funny because I would, if I was going to get rid of something or if I was going to get something or I whatever, I had my figure in my brain. And I would always call Dave and I'd be like, "Hey, what do you think?" And he would 99% of the time he'd come back and we'd be right on the money together. Both of us be right. We were dialed in. And it's interesting to have a connection with someone like that, where you have that, you just have that vibe where you both click, and Dave was great like that, but and as much as it was about the guitars and as it was about the gear and all the geeky stuff that we talk about, there was always some part of, hey, how's, your dad doing, or how's this, or, you know, and I would always ask him, hey, how are you with your family, and how's this, and how's your mom, how's your dad, you know, how's Tom, how's, you know, obviously Desiree, of course, but you know, there was always an element of that in there. It was, you know, of course the conversations was about guitars and gear, but like I said earlier, there was no doubt that, you know, his family and the people that were important to him was always the priority.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Definitely.
I don't think there would not be one guitar on the wall with Dave Nesdall if it meant his animals or his family or his friends. You know, those would be gone in a hot second if it meant him losing them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. Right, Dennis?
Well, there'd be the core few that
There's a couple, there may be 2 guitars.
So my question for Jay is, how did you meet Dave Nesdall?
Oh God, you guys want to take a nap? No, just you know, from watching Dave and Johnny on the channel and stuff like that, and you know, I would pop into the chat, and you know, I already had a Wolfgang USA signature on order, and you know, I had kind of an ETA of when it was coming in, so I messaged both of them and said, hey, I'm getting one of these guitars. I know at the time, you know, not many people had them. You know me from the chat. Would it be cool if I just popped on one of the shows, unboxed it, maybe talked about it, and then I'll jump off? Dave responded and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So, you know, jumped in, and a few weeks later, Rob wasn't on very often, so I guess I was next man up.
That's literally when I tuned in.
Just my replacement.
I took over.
I was Drew Bledsoe and Jay was Tom Brady.
Yeah. And no, it's cool because, like, you know, I thought I knew a little bit about guitars, you know, but once I realized how much Dave knew about it, I realized that I didn't know shit about guitars.
Same.
And it was like, wow, man, there's so much, and I learned so much in that, you know, 3.5 years probably with Dave on the channel, and it just made me realize like how stupid I was with a lot of gear. And you know, it's when you can accept that and admit it, that you don't know anything about something that you should know. That's a very humbling experience. But you know, I always thank Dave for letting me know, and he lets you know that you didn't know stuff about it too. You know, we'd be on the phone and I'd be like, what about this? You know, he's like, do you know what that does? And I'm like, well, I guess I don't. Do you want to tell me? So
I just remember him losing it one night with Jay. Just play a fucking D chord. We'll start there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Dave made it very obvious to the viewer that I didn't know much theory, if any, at all. But you know, I loved him for it. It was all right. Yeah. It was all good. You know, if it was anybody else, though,
yeah, exactly
like that.
Well, that's how you knew you were family with Dave, when he really started busting your balls.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny, Dave. You could pick on him in a good way, not a you know, vindictive way, of course, but like, you know, we would go back and forth and pick on each other on, you know, live on air. And like, you know, every once in a while, he'd be like at the end of the show, hey, Rob, you're a little bit out of line with that one. You know, you went a little overboard with that one. I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. And it was 99% of the time, you know, there was just that connection you had, you know, and you could mess with him, you could screw with him, you could give him a couple of digs and he'd give you a few back. But it was all in good fun. It was all, you know, you had to have thick skin if you're going to be a friend of Dave's, because he was going to dose you a little bit here and there, you know.
Guitar Man 45. The name of that store is Well Strung Guitars.
Well Strung Guitars. Yep.
And if you have Amazon Prime, there's a great documentary that came out. I guess that premiered on that streaming channel a month or so ago about the Songbird Museum. The owner of Well Strung Guitars, David Davidson, is featured in that documentary.
Yeah, and Dave brought me there. I'm not going to say what guitar it was, but Dave brought me there about a couple years before his passing, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to bring you somewhere really cool this weekend when you come out." I'm like, "Cool, all right."
The Titter.
Yeah. Well, that was the next night, Jim. And I was like, whoa, okay. I thought I could do well on my own, but all right. No. So he was a total surprise. He was so excited, and I'd never been there, and he brought me to Well Strung Guitars. And the only thing I'm going to say is we were able to check out one of Eddie Van Halen's older guitars that he used to have. And I got the whole, and I was like, whoa. And we couldn't take any pictures or anything like that. But Dave was always cool like that. He would always have some little thing up his sleeve that we were going to do, whether it's go to Music Zoo or Well Strung Guitars or do something cool. You know, we would always have some kind of fun thing we do and come out on the weekends, you know, and that was a cool one.
Did you guys see that picture of Dave sitting at Well Strung Guitars with the 2 V's on his lap?
Yeah.
Right.
That's $1 million in guitars, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
We had a blast. I took that picture and Dave was just beaming. He loved holding on to
He was doing with that. You know, it'd be, you know, a Wednesday afternoon or something, and you'd get a message from Dave. Guess where I am?
Yeah.
And we're just like, shut up, Dave. Guess what's sitting in my lap right now? Shut up, Dave.
That picture you're talking about, Lenny, I was at work and I was driving down the road on it's called Barrett Hill. And he's like, hey, check this out. And boom, it came in. And he's got those 2 V's. And I was like, whoa. I remember that exactly where I was.
But what he really liked is, Dennis, you're familiar with the guitar on that wall, that lemon burst, the real faded burst with the white pickups in it.
Yeah.
That was his favorite that he played every time he went there.
Is that the one that's called Waves, or did they have a name for that guitar?
Yeah,
or no?
There's a few of them with names, but it's the only lemon burst 59 with double whites in it.
Right. Yeah, it was. I remember that guitar. That if anybody's ever up on Long Island, it's worth it to go to Well Strung.
Oh,
it's like
amazing stuff.
It's like, talk about being a kid in a candy store. It's just,
yeah, and they're really terrific. They're really cordial. They're good people.
Yeah, and speaking of the kid, Nick Amendolara works there.
Yeah, Nick is.
Yeah, and Dave was instrumental in getting Nick that job to work there. I remember Dave called me that one day and he was like, hey, guess what I did today? And I'm like, what? And he goes, you know, obviously we both knew Nick. I mean, Dave's the one that introduced me to Nick, and I got a bunch of Nick's guitars too. And he was like, hey, I did a solid for Nick today. I got him we got an interview with Dave Davidson, and he got a job at Well Strung, and he's still there now. Just you know, Dave was very, very giving like that. He was always trying to help people out and get them set up, and he took a lot of joy in knowing that other folks were successful. You know,
yeah,
that's true.
Me included. You know,
I was chasing a vintage Strat, and I called Well Strung. They had one, and Nick answered the phone, and I was like, "Is this the Nick?" He said, "Is this the Ty?" and again, just another example of Nesdal bringing 2 strangers together.
Yeah,
it's true.
He brought a lot of people together.
You mentioned about Dave getting, you know, if a deal fell through for a guitar that he wanted, you know, there was an Ibanez gem that he was looking at one time, and he's sending me the pictures of it, and he's like, oh man, he was pumped, just walking on air, man, just, you know.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the deal fell through, and it was like he was mad at me. And I was like, I'm 750 miles away, Dave. Like, and I felt like I did something wrong. I was like, Dave, you know how this works, dude. Like, another one, it might take a few days, it might take a few weeks, but no, not one as clean as that one. And I'm like, Dave, it's
so passionate.
All right.
So passionate about
it's going to be fine. Dave, you'll find one. You know enough people, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, less than 24 hours later, I get a call from him. Or he probably sent the picture first, and then I got the call. I was like, see, all that for nothing.
He would always lean back and be like,
the huff and puff,
yeah. He got so worked up.
How many people have the karma? How many people have the karma to have a guitar and years and years later have it float back into your life Bev bought him the first electric guitar he had was that Ibanez with the brush
Liberty
airbrush on it, and he sold it years and years ago, and then a couple of years ago he bought one just like it. He wanted to have that guitar back again. He bought one like it, and when he opened up the case, there were his picks in the case. So he got his own guitar back. This is probably one. Yep, that's the one.
That's it.
Hang on.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. I remember when Dave called me and said he's like, guess what I got back? And I was like,
how cool is that?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's an amazing guitar.
Awesome.
He definitely, you know, when Dave was onto something and he was chasing something and he had a deal in the works. I mean, there was no stopping him. It was going to happen. And if it didn't happen, it was like, you know, it was like, you know, London Bridge just fell down. Like, whoa, you know, this.
And he felt that way even, Rob, when he was like looking for guitars for people, you know, because people would say, hey, I'm in the market for this. Can you find a good one for me? And if that deal fell through, he'd be pissed. I was like, it wasn't for you, dude.
Like, personally.
Yeah, it wasn't just for him. It wasn't just stuff he wanted. It was stuff that everybody wanted.
But he loved that search and the art of the deal. And
yeah.
You can tell, as much as he loved playing guitar, he loved flipping guitars.
Well, I just remember how impactful the whole. All right, so during COVID, different time for all of us, and I remember how impactful the Tom Bukovac channel made on Dave. Just in this holistic way of looking at, you know, creating music with all different types of instruments. Need a Gretsch for this, need a Telly for this.
Yeah, that really spawned his, I'm putting together a toolbox.
Ben, that collection that he put together, holy moly.
And that became such a Ty, how many shows did we do? Tools of the trade shows, like recording essential show, like, and where it would feature you, like, you need these 6 guitars if you're a session player, you know.
Oh, and how everything coupled with that beautiful rig that he was building. You know, we were mentioning the rock and roll amps earlier, and how he would run this to Dennis's point, how he had run those 2 amps, you know, with the ABY box and the gear that he had sitting in front of it, from Gladio to King of Tone to Klon to
that's
whatever.
What threw me off, because you know, we would see the wall, like, even when, you know, when I first saw him on Johnny's show, he had a wall like that I would expect Rob to have, but then you would see his pedal board, and I was expecting to see Eddie's pedal board, because most of you guys build some form of Eddie's board, or, but no, his board was his board, and he had boutique stuff on there. And like, I'm a pedal guy, and he's, hey, have you heard of this company? I'm like, no. He's, well, you have to. I'm like, oh, I will write them down, you know.
Oh, David had pedal fetish.
Oh, he did.
And they were amazing. When they lit up, it was like, whoa, it looked like a rainbow. Yeah, it was something else.
But he made them all sound real good.
Oh, yeah. Sure did. Yeah.
You know, we were talking about Dave's style, Dave's guitar style, and I always admired Dave for the way he played. I know, speaking for myself, I always play it close to home, close to what I know. I play the boxes I know, the places on the neck most comfortable. Dave always, I admired him because he always stepped outside the box and took musical risks. The way, you know, what he was putting into content in a particular song, and it didn't always work out. You know, sometimes it kind of went south on him, which I enjoyed just as well. But he was much more experimental, and he stepped outside the box. Is something I admired greatly.
Yeah.
Of course, Dennis just knows all the boxes, so you don't.
Oh, stop it! That's just...
Dennis could sell some of the boxes and still be all right. So,
so I got a funny memory of Dave that I'll share. because just as we're doing this, we're talking about Dave, all these things come into your head and you're like, whoa, yeah. And like, I mean, I can't even, I mean, there's been a million that I haven't even mentioned or won't have a chance to, and that's fine. But one of the coolest things, it was funny. I remember when I would stay at the house, I'd usually get there on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning or whatever, depending on what my work schedule was. And I'd always leave on a Sunday. Well, we'd stay up until like, midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'd retire a little early, like 11, depending on what was going on. And I was always up early. I'd get up and do like a little workout thing or whatever, make coffee, whatever. And I would always go out. It was it was always like Christmas morning, going out into the living room. I would stay in their back room. And I'd get up, I'd go down in the kitchen, make some coffee, and I'd sit on the couch or whatever. This is after Dennis was gone. And I would sit there and I'd wait, like a kid on Christmas morning, waiting for mom and dad to get up, so you could start ripping into presents, And I just sit there and I'd be looking around like, oh, I'm gonna play that guitar, and I'd go grab it and I'd have the little amp and I'd turn it on, have it real low so I didn't wake up Desiree or Dave. And then you could always hear like Brandy would jump off the bed and walk down the hall. You hear the click, 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 click for the nails and everything. It was so funny. And then Desiree would usually get up, and even before Desiree was there or whatever, she would get up, come down. Hey, how you doing? This and that. And then you'd hear Dave. You'd hear that chair wheeling down the hallway. And that was when you knew Dave was up, because the chair would come down the hallway. Hey, what's up? And it was like right off the bat. He would, do his little routine. And then he was right out there, and we were ripping on guitar and jamming and talking. It was just so much. It's just, those are the memories you don't really forget about. And they're comical, they're funny, and we get laughs out of it. But it's just, I can hear that sound of that chair.
Yep.
And
yep.
Oh gosh, it was crazy. It was just so much fun. And
it's, it's weird. I mean, Lenny, you remember, because obviously you've known him a long time. I remember Dave up walking around,
Yeah.
Going to gigs, we'd walk together. I mean, I can remember doing a gig with him. I had subbed out of doing the show Moving Out, I think, to do a gig with Dave, a local gig on the island right up in Glen Cove. And it's either I think I'd subbed out. And I mean, we were loaded in the back. I mean, we sort of forget in a way that guy was mobile,
Yeah.
Majority of the time that I knew Dave, he was, mobile. I mean, over time it got less and less, but and carrying gear and playing gigs, and it went from him, he'd stand up. I mean, Des, you've seen plenty of pictures of him, and and it went, he's standing up, and then it was to sitting down and whatnot. But I can remember that. I can remember doing, him, us doing gigs together, and it didn't happen all that often, but it from time to time, or I'd go down to one of his gigs and he'd sit in for a little bit or whatnot, and he, like, I'd always egg him on too. Like, even as it got more difficult for him to play, I'm like, come on, man, you got to play. Don't, like you said, Lenny, like, don't give in.
Right.
Don't give it play. Sing. How come you don't sing anymore? Because he did have a great touch on the instrument, and that was that's hard to find as guitar players. There's a thing that he had that not everybody has, and that was special. And he was a different player than me, but we both got together on loving classic rock and blues, really probably blues more than anything else. And the Van Halen stuff was, Van Halen was an influence for me, but more from an attitude perspective than the technical stuff. Certainly rhythm guitar wise, but I always appreciate, like, I knew if there was something that I had to do, I had to learn, like, the solo to jump. Dave, how do you play this? How do you play that solo? Like, oh, it's that. Okay, I'm gonna fluff through that because it doesn't really matter. Like it's gonna happen. It's some stupid gig I'm doing. I'm gonna go. It's gonna I'm gonna kind of gack my way through it. it's gonna be fine. But it was cool to watch Dave play. You know, that was fun. That was, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I knew Dave when I first met Dave. The first couple of years, he was a lot more mobile than he was, you know, at the end. The first 3 years, I think I knew Dave. And Dennis, I remember, you know, obviously going down, staying there, and when you were still living there, and you know, you coming home late, and Dave and I'd be up, and you'd come in with your bag, and we'd hang out, and we'd, you know, chat and everything. But I remember, I want to say it was 17 or 18. Might have been, it was one of the 2 years, 2017 or 18. You played a gig at Jones Beach, and I think it was your band, you know, Shotgun Wedding, I think is what it was at the time. Was that?
It would have been before. It would have been, because remember, I moved out in October of 17.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't recall if you were still living there or not, but I do remember going down one weekend and you were playing a gig in Jones Beach. And hey, we're going to see Dennis. I'm like, oh, awesome. And we went out, and Dave was more mobile. I mean, you know, he wasn't like running marathons mobile, but he, you know, he could walk a little bit better. And I would always help him. And we sat there and we watched that show, and it was, oh gosh, you played an incredible show. It was a great set you guys did. And I remember, you know, just sitting there watching it with Dave, you know, and just, you know, and then hanging out with you for a little while after the show. And yeah, there's a lot of great memories, you know.
Sure.
Even
Dave,
back he was more mobile.
I'd get Dave to come down. I mean, Des, you and Dave would come down to gigs in the last, you know, year. And, you know, I'd make sure to get a spot. Like, is there going to be a place to sit? Yeah, sure, no problem. You came down to the beach, you know.
Yep.
And he, like, I was with Dave. I remember it's the hoodie.
Yes. Dennis, remember that time we were all both at that Sweet Mandarin?
Yeah.
And you said, and then you asked, I think you texted him and said, I don't know I don't know how to tell you this, but Desiree's here with someone, and because you were just busting his balls, and he's like, it looks like the Unabomber's with her. And he's like, what? And you're like, yeah, I mean, you're my friend, so I got to tell you, she's here with some other guy, but it's not you.
The Unabomber,
that was so
right?
funny.
That's
The Unabomber's here with her.
That's great.
Yes, I remember
I'd walk into the house too, and I'd be like, he's in his hoodie, and it's so freaking hot.
Yes.
Dude, my eyeballs are drying out, and you've got your hoodie on.
Yeah.
Open a window, for the love of God.
Yes.
Desiree, you remember that gig that Van Hagar was playing in Jones Beach, and you,
Yep.
Dave, and I, and we went to that. Yeah, and he had that hoodie on. I'm gonna find a picture right now. I gotta find it.
The Rasta. He would call it the
Yeah,
Rasta.
I was going to say it was the black one with the stripes on it.
I got it. I kept that one.
Oh, the shawl, whatever the hell.
Yeah,
it was.
exactly.
yeah.
That's it, Jack.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's called the Rasta. I'm like, the Rasta. I'm like, okay.
I wanted to play with him in a band situation so bad that even, you know, towards the end when he had vision problems, which I couldn't believe that he would come to my house. He would drive to my house, and I'd say, Dave, I'll drive from here, because he was a little frightening, but I didn't give a damn. We were playing at Jam House Studios. You guys know Jam House Studios? It's up 2 flights of stairs. You got 2 straight flights up, and I didn't give a shit. I carried his guitars and his amps up the stairs because I wanted to play with him, but he was determined to do it. He climbed those stairs, you know, and we got to play. Yeah. But I wasn't letting him drive.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you know, one thing that Dave was always insistent about. So when Dave and I, when we began Nes Says, it was primarily an interview focus. And so there was always a third party that was coming into the, coming into the circle for that 1 week. And Dave was insistent on doing at least one pre-call with the guest. And I'll never forget that I answered the phone one afternoon and he said, "Hey, do you know who Johnny Highland is?" And I said, well, Dave, I'm Southern. So, I mean, Johnny Highland is the 13th disciple.
My neighbor.
I mean, he is revered in the South, Dave. And he was like, "Well, say hello. He's on the other line."
Oh, Jesus.
And we did the.
What if you said, "Yeah, I'm not really a fan of the guy." Like, say hi to him.
Well, because Jay, you know him. That would have never occurred to him. I mean,
Nope.
that would have never occurred. And I'm going to tell you, the way that Dave was able to communicate with pro players, the ins, the outs, the A to Z. I mean, we talked to all kinds of people. Ben was a part of a lot of that. I mean,
it was ridiculous, right? Because he knows so many people, and towards the end, like when you were still doing it, and then later with me, because of the dialysis and stuff, we didn't always have those pregame phone calls, right? It was always, I'll touch base with you, and next thing I know, it's Thursday. I'm sent the link, and he goes, "Oh, my friend such and such is on." It's just my friend Bob, we'll say, right? And you come on. Meanwhile, Bob's some touring musician. I'm like, well, you could told me it's Bob Seger for like the guy heads up, like that's why I remember literally because he would set it up the link at the last minute or whatever, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, Johnny Highland tonight." I'm like, "Oh great, I'm meeting Johnny in 10 minutes." Apparently, okay.
It's like Johnny Highland, one of the greatest pickers to walk the planet Earth.
Well, speaking of great guitarists, Dave is the reason why I got the chance to meet and become friendly and have an actual relationship with Larry Mitchell.
Yeah.
Larry is that was the, my brother played drums growing up. So I always wanted to play guitar, but there was never that, what we call it, a spark to I want to get a guitar, and
burning desire.
Yeah, burning desire. I didn't have it yet. And my brother brought home a box of CDs one day, and Larry Mitchell was in there. I had no idea what it was, and popped it in, and I was like, "Holy crap, this is!" And I've always been a huge fan. That album was like the catalyst of me starting to play. And then years later, I'm doing the show with Johnny and Dave, and all of a sudden, Dave mentions that he knows Larry Mitchell. And I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!
Yeah,
are you the Larry?" And next thing you know, he comes on the show. We exchange numbers. We talk on the phone a couple times. And I guess we're coming on 3 years now, maybe three and a half years. I get a phone call from Larry one night. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" Or whatever it was, tomorrow at 9 or something. I was like, "Nothing." He's like, "Well, I'm playing a house show about a half hour, 45 minutes from you. Do you want to come and jam?" And instantly I'm scared out of my mind.
Wait,
you're like, "Yeah, but no."
Hang on. I need to interrupt you. Larry Mitchell just texted me. He's on the plane. He said he can be on for 9 minutes. So can you keep an eye out and see if you see him?
I mentioned his name, and voila.
Yeah. Jay, it's funny because Larry, because of Dave, I met Larry, and
we'll make the story short because he's dropping in, isn't he?
No, wait, sorry, Jay. I did not mean to interrupt you. He just texted me. Look at your phone. I'm like, I'm looking.
No, it's great, but Dave again was the one that introduced me to Larry, and I got to meet Larry, many times,
Same.
And there's really, there's a couple great guitarists that Dave introduced me to. One of them, was Dennis, and the Larry, and it was amazing. And just because watching these guys play, it's like, whoa, it's incredible.
You love this one, Jay. I got one for you. I'll say it quick. My intro to Larry was, through seeing him on with you guys, but I booked Larry as one of my first guests not long after I had Dave on, right? I didn't know Larry. So Dave was going to come on to co-host. So it's getting close to showtime. I'm like, "There's no Dave." I'm like, "Where's Dave?" I'm about to have Larry jump on. Where's Dave? Dave's like, "Oh, I'm playing cards with my mom. I'm not going to come on tonight." Larry's a great guy. You'll have a blast. What? Yeah. Thanks, Dave. And I did. And Larry and I became fast friends. And yeah, and Larry's awesome. What can you say?
We saw Larry on the way when David came to Texas, and on our way back to New York, we stopped by and saw Larry. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm at Larry's house. Oh my God, I can't believe this. I can't believe you really know him."
Yeah, Desiree, Larry, it was funny at Dave's at the funeral last year, when we went, for the get together after, we all got up and told some stories and some great stuff. And I remember Larry, telling a story when him and Dave drove all the way to.
Sorry. Ben, do you have Larry's phone number?
You want me to send it to him?
Yeah. Can you send him the link, please, Jay?
Yeah.
Because he said it won't work for him, the one I sent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's Larry in the chat.
Yeah. There he is.
Let's see if this works.
Got quiet.
Sorry, I keep interrupting everybody. I'm like, wait.
No worries.
Hey, you're co-hosting, guys. That's how it works.
I think I know the story that you're going to tell, Rob, and I'd love to hear that story again.
Well, I'll say it real quick before Larry jumps in. But Dave and Larry were driving to this gig in Brattleboro, Vermont, which is literally 25 minutes away from my house because I live right on the New Hampshire-Vermont-Mass border. And he's telling the story on like how it was this weird, like crazy thing, and just Dave and Larry travel a lot back in those days, and it was so cool to
pre-GPS.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so definitely some amazing things.
There he is. Hey, Larry.
Yes.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm on a plane. The timing didn't work out for me in this. What time did you guys start? How long ago?
About 2 hours ago.
Yeah, almost 2 hours ago.
I totally messed up the time. I was in the airport. I could have gone on. I'm actually on the flight right now, about to take off.
Where are you, Larry?
I am in Phoenix, headed to Dallas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Larry.
Good to see you, Larry.
How you doing, Larry?
All right. It's a little uncomfortable tuning in and hearing all you guys talking about me. So, thanks for the kind words.
It's all good stuff, Larry. It's all good stuff. Larry, I was just telling everybody the story about you and Dave years and years ago traveling to Brattleboro, Vermont for that gig.
Yes.
You remember that?
Oh, I remember. We drove hours in a snowstorm, pretty much.
Yes.
And I get out of the car in, I think it was Brattleboro. Wherever I got out of the car to call, because we didn't have cell phones. It was all pay phones. I called and to let them know we were there. And I get back in the car and Dave turns to me and goes, "What are you going to do if these guys suck?" I was like, Dave. But there were so many crazy things. We stayed with the drummer and his roommate, and we got there first, and he said, just go in the house, which is something I don't really feel comfortable doing, but we did. And he said, check out the rooms to see where you want to stay. He forgot to tell us that his roommate collected World War II memorabilia, mostly Nazi planes and tanks. So Dave was like, I'm not staying in this room.
Dave's alley.
Yeah, but it was good riding with Dave. Very good riding with Dave.
Larry, are you still coming to South Carolina last Sunday of May, or is that
I think it's May 29th.
Okay.
I'll be there.
I have to practice then, I guess, don't I?
You'll be fine.
Wait, Chad, I thought you were North. No, you are South Carolina, not North.
Yeah. Yep. On the border. How long is the flight for you?
It's 2 hours.
Okay, not too bad.
It's 2 hours. I'm so sorry. I totally missed that. I thought, I missed it. It's the time change, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So what did I miss? What do you guys? Well, I know you want to rehash anything, but
Larry, we got a question for you. We all went through and said the first time we met Dave. What's your story on the first time you actually met Dave?
I was doing a guitar clinic in Sam Ash in Long Island, and Dave came in and was asking these questions. But the first time I really remember Dave was walking into the Carol's place, the C-Note Cafe, and he was playing one of my songs. And I was like, why is somebody playing one of my songs? It was I wasn't used to that thing.
What year would that have been, Larry?
Oh, you're asking me years? I can never remember what year my records came out.
I can.
It was early 90s because Dave was. It had to be. It'd probably be 1990 or 91 probably right before I did the Billy Squire tour.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is a long time ago.
Long time.
All right, tell the stewardess we're doing a show. She's gonna have to wait before she gets to the particulars.
We're almost the flight.
Yeah, just drop Nesdal's name. It'll be fine.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
That's why I'm heading to your home area. I think I lost you guys.
Up in there.
I know you're going to Dallas. I want to go.
I think I'm headed to York.
Oh, that's Desiree's. Yeah, that's Desiree's home state.
When are you coming to New York?
I don't have any shows booked in New York right now, but I don't know.
But you're going to Dallas now, right?
Going to Dallas now. Dallas Guitar
I
Festival
want
this
to
weekend.
go. Take me.
Come on out.
Desiree, how's your dad doing, by the way, speaking of Texas?
Yeah.
Earl.
Yeah.
Hey, Earl.
Hey, Earl. What's going on?
I knew you were there somewhere.
How y'all doing?
Good to see you.
I want to say something. I really appreciate y'all, all the kind words y'all said about him and for her. And thank y'all a whole lot.
Thank you, Earl.
I think we all
good
yeah,
stuff,
thank
all
you.
real stuff, Earl.
Yeah.
I think we all.
Hey, Earl. Hey, Earl. When we go offline, can you say that curse word that I love so much?
Mother.
Not now.
Hey, I wouldn't mind it now. Share it with the public.
Come on, like Earl, say it for Larry.
Hey, Dad, come say it for Larry.
I can't say that on.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
I can't say motherfucker.
Nice, Earl. Nice.
My dad, guys.
Desiree, you remember that story we had about your dad, right? Back. We're not going to get into that.
No.
Earl, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, to the evening, welcome aboard Southwest Airlines flight number 1771, service to Dallas Love Field.
Well, that sounds important.
Desiree's jealous. Desiree's jealous.
Larry, do you get frightened to are you like get nervous to fly at all, or you don't give a shit? It's normal.
No, I've been flying for a while, so.
So when the turbulence hits and everyone else is looking around, you're like, right.
Bad turbulence messes with me. And I've been in a flight where they came around and they asked all the women for high heels. If you ever on a flight where they ask the women for their heels and they put them in a giant trash bag, that's when stuff is starting to come in. They don't want you puncturing the slide. You know what I mean? They don't want you sliding down the slide and puncturing the slide.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were fully expecting an emergency landing.
Really?
Emergency landing, yeah. Crashing into the side of the mountain. That's the last thing you want to think about, isn't it, Larry, right now?
Yeah.
I'll start calling you David.
Yeah, you'll
I
be all
try not
right.
to watch movies like that on the plane, you know?
No, Final Destination is not on the itinerary today.
I don't even watch snakes on a plane. Not even that.
Oh man,
Very
good.
So, Des, did you want to talk about some guitars back there?
Yes. So let me get out of the way. Dennis, you might have to help. Let me get out of the way.
Sure.
Okay, so all the guitars on this wall, am I pointing at the wall? I
Yeah.
can't tell.
No, yeah. You're pointing it to the bathroom.
They're all for sale. All of them is what I have left. And there's 2 more like on the rack. 3 more on the rack. So if you're interested in any of the guitars, just let me know, or in the chat if you want to see one, I can bring it over here. They need to go. Now, reasonably, they need to go. Yes, there's a list. I'll update the list because the most recent list on David's page is not the current one. But I do want to go ahead and start getting rid of some of his guitars, and those are the ones that are for sale. The EV8 sign, wrong way, that way. Rob can give you information on it. That is also being sold. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me. Either if you know my phone number, text me. If you don't, Facebook message me. Please don't message David's Facebook Messenger because I hardly ever check his Facebook. I post a lot on it, but I hardly ever check it. Straps. If you want a strap, as Dennis mentioned,
Dave has all the straps.
And we also, do we still have pedals left?
Yes.
And we still got pedals left. So if there's a certain kind of pedal you want or need, let me know, and I'll get with Dennis. Or if you know Dennis, ask him. I'm throwing you here, Dennis.
I was going to post. I'll post that list on my Facebook page as well.
Okay.
So yeah, because it's time to get them moving. You know, nothing's being given away.
Yeah, we're not giving nothing away. So just.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. You know. So I will listen to your offer. Please don't be offended if I tell you no way. But I will. If I tell you that's so cute or bless your little heart, then you could be offended.
Oh yeah. If a Texan tells you bless your little heart.
Yes.
Ooh, that's almost like what Earl just called.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
Same thing.
Without the
bless
mother.
your little heart is one thing, but if she breaks out with a I'll tell you what, you're in trouble.
Hey, Des,
I
Des,
say that too. Yes.
Des, what's that white and black swirled Ibanez doing behind you on the wall? Is that one for sale?
No. That's not for sale.
Joke.
Oh, that was hiding. That was not even on the wall. I purposely took that one off the wall. That one's Larry's, and it's going back to him. You scared me.
Okay,
I'm like,
hold on.
I took that off. Okay.
Larry's getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Sir.
You have to end that call now, sir.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's faking it right now. He's just pretending like, hey, what? I'm not doing anything.
Excuse me,
I
sir.
don't fly very often. I'm not aware of what's going on.
Aisle 27 with the big hat on. You'll have to remove the headphones and turn the phone off, sir. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, he's in it looks like he might be in an exit row. He might be.
Oh, so you have to follow. You have to get the rules.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on an exit row, but I think I have to get off in a minute. So
yeah, he's in an exit row.
It's good to see you, Larry.
Good to see you, Larry.
guys.
See you, Larry.
Off this phone, please, sir.
Take care, Larry.
Okay. You guys take care.
All right, Larry. Good seeing you. I'll see you in
Thanks for
Take care, Larry.
memory of Dave around. Okay. Bye.
Let us know when you're coming to play in New York, man.
I will.
A safe flight, Larry.
And there he goes.
After I talk about final destination.
Sorry, Jay. I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry.
I interrupt myself. It's okay. It's all good.
But yes, please, if there's a guitar that you're interested in, please send me a message because I want to go ahead and get rid of those.
That EVH sign up there, just so the folks out there watching, that is not the EVH sign that you get from VH store. That came out many years before and was a promotional item to a very few music stores, and it's about the same size as the others, but it's much higher quality, and there was only a couple of them made. Dave was able to score one of them. I remember seeing that sign way before the ones came out through the store, and I was like, "Where did you get that?" And he told me about it. So I think he was like one of two that had that sign. So that's a pretty rare sign.
Dealer.
I know that.
I know there's several people in the chat that are drooling over that sign, and I'm
Is
shocked
it?
that it isn't actually in possession of Rob already, somehow, some way.
Rob, do you have one? You have one, don't you?
I have one through the VH store, and at a distance it looks the same, but it's not the quality of that one right there. Because that, like I said, that was a rare one. That was a promotional item. I want to say that was around 2010 or 11 time frame.
Yeah, early days of the EVH brand, point of purchase, like for your EVH dealers, which there wasn't a lot of.
Right.
And it's not like, even if, say, Guitar Center carried EVH at that time, Rob, they're not making 100 of them for Guitar Centers. It was for the independent dealers. So that's really a small window of people.
Yep.
And he also has a acoustic Martin that I bought him for our wedding, for his wedding gift.
The 0018. It's a Martin.
I remember
That's amazing.
So that one's for sale too.
That's the Eric Clapton Martin, right?
Eric Clapton Martin is a 0028. So the 18 is a rosewood, is a mahogany back and sides. 28 is a rosewood.
Is rosewood? Yeah.
That's the difference, folks. See, we dropped some knowledge tonight. Awesome.
I want to say thank you. I don't know how much longer. It's already been 2 hours.
Whatever.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be honest, this has been a very rough year. Tomorrow is going to be even harder. But the fact that you all came on here and watched this and joined the chat and joined on here with me means a lot. At first, I wasn't going to do this. I didn't know if I could do this. I didn't know if I should. In a way, it felt weird doing this a year later, but in a way, I felt like David would want me to. Because he loved doing this every Thursday. I mean, there'd be times I'm like, babe, can we go do this? No, I got my show. So yes, I was important, but he loved being on here with you guys. He loved doing the show for you guys. You guys were very important to him as his fans. He really, really loved doing this and sharing his knowledge with you. I watched one of his shows the other day and I started crying because I'm like, oh my gosh. He knows all this stuff. And I was watching, I think, Ben, your show one day, and I'm like, someone asked a guitar question, and I think you and whoever you had were like, I don't know. And I'm like, where's David? He would know.
Tell me about it. Talk about phone a friend when you do a Q&A show. Oof.
And I was like, man, I should listen to some of this stuff because I'd be like, I know this answer, but I didn't listen because I thought he was going to be around forever. So I'm like, But seriously,
and thank you, Terry, for posting the link to Dave's channel in the chat.
Yes,
definitely, folks, check it out. And you're right, Des. That show meant so much to him. Like, I think how many times you jump on the call, Ty. You know, especially towards the end where his health was, his stamina wasn't quite there, and he'd be like, "I don't know how long we're gonna go. It might be a short show tonight." But the moment that opening music hit, it was full on Dave Nesdall for say 90 minutes, and then the show would end, and then you could just see him, like it would just, he'd be deflated again.
And some days,
like it's like a gig. He would go out and he would just leave nothing on this, leave nothing else, and just 100%.
Well, Des, I think doing this type of thing kind of keeps his legacy alive as well from all these shows and just,
thank you.
I think it's a good thing.
Oh, by the way, Des, you forgot to mention that the tons of Floyd Rhodes stuff that he's got parts, he's got full Floyd Roses. I don't know how many he's got, but he's got that stuff is all available for sale as well.
I got to get down there and look at some of that stuff myself.
yeah, Rob. Yeah.
Plus, you want a knob? He's got knobs.
Oh my God! Every knob that you need, every knob. I don't know what the knobs are called, but every one you need.
I know what they're called. I love knobs.
Who doesn't love a knob?
Well, because he would replace the knobs on every guitar. The guy bought a guitar every 2 weeks, and like Ty, every time he got a Les Paul, it had to have the mirror top knobs and the pointers. Now it looks right. It looks right.
Yeah, and then he would send me his old ones. I loved it. It was, every time he got a new guitar, I would get new knobs and pointers.
Yeah. Well, not all of them. There's still millions of them, and
you guys have no idea.
No, and the other day I was cleaning up something that wasn't even in that room, and I'm like, I cuss him all the time. You can even when Dennis is here, I'm like, I want to kill him. I'm like, it's a good thing I can't throw. Not that I would throw the urn, but there's times I'm like, if I could throw it and know nothing would happen to him, I would throw it. I'm like, what were you thinking? Why did you do this? Or, why did you leave this? Why did you need 500 of these same knobs? And I would ask Dennis, are these all the same? Yes. Okay. Because, I'm a typical girl. It all looks the same. I'm like, why did he need 20
Because
of these?
when they found a deal, that's why when you buy a pick, you buy a gross of picks at a time.
If anybody wants picks.
Yeah, right.
Let me know, because I have every single
David Nesdall picks.
Robert Ranford.
I have David Nesdall. I have I have not Des says. I have Des
There you
says.
go. There you go.
Des says, yeah.
That's the other limited edition pick. The Des
Yes.
says.
Robert Ranford just wrote in the chat, Knob Johnson.
Knob.
So Dave and I had an
Rob.
argument one day, not in a bad argument, a good argument on the 1984 Kramer that Eddie played good enough on. I'm not going to get into Van Halen geeky stuff, but we had an argument one day, and I actually won this one. I was so proud of myself that I beat Dave in an argument about Van Halen. And I said, Dave, Eddie had a Steinberger knob on 84 guitar in 88. He's like, no, he didn't. It was a speed knob. I'm like, no, that was an 86. And Dave's like, what? I'm like, in the 5150 tour, there was a speed knob on it. In the 1984 tour, there was like this little knurled metal knob on it. But in 1988, in the OU812 tour, when the 84 guitar never got played, but it was one of the backups, it was a Steinberger knob. And he goes, how do you know that? And I'm like, scrolling through my phone. Where's that damn picture? Where's that damn picture? It was a 1988 picture. I think it was in Guitarist magazine. And you can see clearly there's a Steinberger knob. And I sent it to him. Radio silence for like an hour. No response, nothing. And all of a sudden I get a phone call. Yeah, you're right on that one. So that was our knob argument. So then of course, Dave and I are trying to find him a Steinberger knob for his 84, which we did find. We did find one.
And Dave Nesdall was the only guy where you could talk for 20 minutes to half an hour during a live stream about knobs.
Yeah.
Right.
He would.
I could talk
He's
about
like,
knobs.
that was a great show. I'm like, we talked about knobs for a third of the show, Dave. But
Yeah, I'm with Dennis. I can talk about knobs for a long
time. Come on, Ben. You just throwing a hanging curveball right there.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that walked into that.
I love knobs.
Hey, you've seen two. You want to see all the rest of them.
That's right.
Over and over again.
This is bad when you're only female on here. It's like, okay, I need another female on here to help me out.
Well, this knob sticks out a little bit more. This knob's a little more flush.
All right. Let's keep it above board. Let's keep it above board.
You do realize he would love to be part of this conversation.
Yes,
As a matter
he
of
would
fact,
die.
I'm not so sure that he's not spiritually driving this conversation.
I was going to say, yeah, if Dave jumped in right now, it would be my God, what are you guys talking about?
So, speaking of this subject, and I probably shouldn't, someone say one embarrassing story. So when we're
It's embarrassing for you or embarrassing for me?
Popcorn.
Embarrassing for me.
Okay.
It was embarrassing for me. So we went and saw Rob, and we went to this wing place that was amazing wings, right?
Hanger.
Yes. Well, I didn't know if you want me to say the name, but yeah. So we're sitting there, and Dave is like, let's take a picture together. I'm like, okay. So Rob's behind us, and as the server walks towards us, we go take a picture, and he grabs my boob, and he's like, smile, honey. And I was like, holding his hand. I'm like, I was like, why'd you do that? He goes, I just wanted to. I'm like, we're in public, babe. He's like, so they can watch me grab your boob. I'm like, oh my God. And so you send me the picture and I'll try to find it. I'm holding his hand. I'm
gonna find it right now.
You got it?
Keep talking. I'll find it. Keep talking.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God. I was so embarrassed and I'm trying to smile, but I was like, so I'm like, okay. Thank you for grabbing my boob in front of the restaurant while we're trying to take a picture.
Why did I not know that in that picture? I know the exact picture because I'm going to find it. But
you didn't realize that's what he was doing? Yes, because that's why my hands
on his hand. What restaurant was that?
It was
the Hanger. What was that?
It's called Hanger. It's a wings place.
Heavy hangers.
Yeah.
Have you gone back?
Well played. Well played.
Let me see if I can find it. I'm like,
here it is right here. Here it is right here.
Yes, as you can see, my hand is on his hand, and that's mine.
You'd never know.
You would never know, but now we know the rest of the story.
Well, now you know what happened in that picture. I'm like,
so does everybody else on this chat right now.
So Dave loved knobs too. Yeah.
Yes.
And if you look at his face in that picture, it's a shit-eating grin ear to ear. You know?
And that's funny because he knew what he was doing. I'm like, babe, don't do that. Okay, let go.
Crazy.
Dave. That's Dave.
It was Dave.
Yep.
He loved doing anything for shock value, especially to me. He's like, oh. I'm like,
up to and including dropping a Les Paul on air.
Yes.
Oh, going for those ratings. Going for the ratings.
Wonder whose Les Paul that was.
Great. It's
yeah, right.
I wonder whose Les Paul that was.
Dave called me right after that. Like he was like, "Did you see that? You got to see that." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'll never."
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't one of the random times Dennis jumped in the chat or something. He'd go,
I died.
The video is funny, especially when it's slowed down. That's That's
the best part is Ben's face. Watching Ben's face after it happens, Ben's like,
or his.
Hey, I'm like, let's see. Is it alive? Like, what am I dealing with? An enraged Dave? A somber Dave? A happy Dave? What are we dealing with here?
He didn't miss a beat. I mean, he dropped it and he said, and now it has a broken headstock. I mean, he just didn't flinch.
A broken
head. You have that, don't you, Jay? Don't you have that video?
Didn't you send it to me a while back?
I think so.
Whoops.
I believe it was shared on his birthday. I remember that.
Yeah,
I posted that.
I saw it just recently.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while I get tagged in the photo or in the video when somebody posts
right
it.
into it. He didn't plan it, you know. He just sang that whole thing.
He did. One line right. This is an amazing. This is a real Les Paul, and then with a broken head. So you just boom right in. Just
I don't know where the frig it is.
I'll see if I can dig it up. I have it somewhere.
Dennis, it was literally unscathed.
It had like, I think it had a little bit of a nick up on the headstock, like just like it really was. It was unscathed.
And the decal popped off the volume knob or the tone knob. One of the decals had.
But that actually that decal. I mean the reflector.
Yeah.
That reflector had that reflector was, those reflectors were always a little loose.
I'm gonna say someone has it.
I've got it. I just don't know how to send it to.
Can you text it to me and I'll present it onto the
yeah, it's coming your way.
Okay.
It's the slow down version too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the slow-mo version.
Well, that made its rounds, huh?
Oh yeah. It has. I wonder if there's people that don't even know Dave per se that have seen that video or shared that video at this point.
But Dave actually had such a sense of humor about that, which was so cool because it never turned into like, you know, it wasn't a bad thing because he laughed his ass off about that.
Afterwards.
Jay, it's in your Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, my Instagram. Shit.
Yeah.
What?
Kurt said he just sent it to you as well.
He sent me the one with Phil Collins.
That one's funny too, with that music, and that one's funny too.
I don't want to get Ben's channel.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Crap. Ty, can you actually do you have it saved on your phone? Can you just text it to me?
Yeah, I have it saved somewhere.
I can show it right here if you want to just watch it on my phone.
That's no fun. Hold on. You know what? I'm just going to open my Instagram and then I'll do it from there. How about that?
Hey, it's in your messenger.
Okay.
But I remember that because I heard the noise and I'm like, what is that? And I'm on delay in the bedroom.
You gotta watch
and then I get a text message, bring the glue. And I'm like, that is Dennis's guitar. What do you mean bring the glue? I'm like, what the hell did you do? What happened? And I ran in here and he's like, trying to be all nonchalant, trying to get the glue from me. I'm like, what are you doing? What did you do?
And of course, and Dave being Dave, like you said off air, once a guitar was in his hands, he considered it his. He's all right, this is my new joy in life. And you're like, where'd you get the details don't matter. Like, okay,
Ben's
Dave.
face is the best though. And at the end, after it falls on, Dave's like, whoops.
Hey guys, so Mom wants me to show you this. So in this picture, David is 3 and he's taking a rag and he's wiping his guitar with it. You can't see the.
He's 3.
He's 3.
Wow.
And you can't really tell the guitar because it's the same color as the table, but.
Real.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, look at him. That's amazing.
Really?
That's awesome.
Started that early.
Can y'all still? Did everybody get to see it before I pulled it away?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I can't like zoom in on it or biggie
All right,
screen.
hang on. I'm gonna find the original.
Okay.
I just posted it like a month ago, so I've got it nearby somewhere. I just don't.
All right, do you want me to just send you I can send you the one I got. It's on Instagram.
So you can't see this.
Awesome.
Like,
Can you just forward it to Jay?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that.
Here's a picture of him playing a guitar. It's kind of
second grade.
Second grade. I don't know if you can you. Well, the angle's kind
I've
of
seen
weird.
that picture before.
So it's kind of blurry, but
Well, it's because the flash is coming off the mirror. That's
Yeah.
right behind them.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
you know what?
I've seen that picture. Yeah.
Do I have that picture? Hang on. I might have the actual. Give me 1 second, guys.
This is what a real person.
That one's gonna get us flagged, right?
Yeah.
If it's more than 6 seconds or whatever.
All right, give those to you.
Oh, it'll get Ben flagged. So what do I give a shit?
Yeah.
Actually, go for it. I don't think I monetized the show anyways.
That'll get the copyright strike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like bam.
We get those on Under the Bus all the time, man. They suck.
Yeah, you guys on Under the Bus. You guys like the flag is like a normal night for you guys.
It's the flag football of YouTube channels.
This is like he's looking at. Where's my next guitar gonna come from?
I'll do that.
How cute is that?
This is cute.
In the playpen.
Yep.
Well, I'm bored. Where's my next guitar?
Oh, I thought y'all were going to. Okay, so I thought y'all were going to show something.
I sent it, Jay. I just texted it to you. I found the source file.
All right.
So Mom says this is like David saying when he was little, "Where's my next guitar?"
Bored as hell. Didn't have a guitar.
Oh my gosh, that's the house. That's the place right there. With the
That's
garage.
garage.
Yep.
Those are garages, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Either that or
That's
rolling all the records down the road.
Oh yes, when he was little, he took all her records
Oh no.
and all the 45s and rolled them down the hill.
Everything down the hill.
Oof.
Whee!
And he was saying, "Wee, wee."
Oh dear Lord. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There
here we
you
go.
There we
There
go.
you go.
That's my old Les Paul. I owned it at the time.
All right, let's make sure we can hear this.
It's a great guitar.
It's just crazy good. It's got a broken
Look at his smile though. His smile's classic.
Oh, it doesn't have Ben's reaction though. No.
That's so
Listen to it. The thing rolls around the floor for a good 2-3 seconds, man.
Oh gosh.
So
Oops.
Classic. Oh gosh, I love that guy so much.
No, he goes broken headstock, and he goes, "Oops."
Oh, man,
Dennis is like,
Oops.
you're good.
Folks, do not do that at home with your Les Pauls.
I
No.
tried this at home. I know.
This is healthy because we're really laughing with him and not at him.
Oh,
you know?
totally,
yeah,
totally.
absolutely.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
thought
yeah.
it was funny afterwards. And then I was like, because I ran in here, I'm like, oh my God, you better tell Dennis before he sees this.
It dropped. The headstock dropped right into the waste paper basket. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember once walking into the apartment when Dave had his stands, all lined up over here, and your Dennis's stand was all lined up over here. And I remember looking at one of Dennis's guitars, and I kind of leaned it out. I didn't even pick it up. I just kind of leaned it out and looked at it. I went, wow, a Telecaster or something. Wow, this is really nice. And I leaned it right back in, And about 3 minutes later, magically, Dennis showed up, and he walked in, and he walked right over to that guitar and just tweaked it and it's staying. And I went, oh, I never touched another one of his guitars.
He knows.
Yeah. A little OCD. A little OCD.
Just slightly.
Walked in the house and felt a disturbance in the force.
Exactly. He went right to that guitar.
That's something that Dave and I had in common. Like if we lining up our guitars in the rack, and if they were a little askew, like even if I would check his guitars in the rack. As a matter of fact, when I was there last night, I was straightening them out.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to be even because he's up there like, oh, geez, I can't. That's out of line. Can you?
Well, they're out of line again. So get ready to come over here and be like, Desiree.
Ben, can you fix that? Like I felt it. Like, well, I mean, I didn't have to feel it. Like I just did it on my own. Like he and I were very much the same in that regard.
I know he's been yelling at me for a year now because these guitars. He's probably like, "You're not taking care of them. Why are you letting them sit like that? You're supposed to touch them." And I'm like, sorry.
That's why I picked them all. I picked all those guitars that are up on the wall there. I mean, I picked them all up last night just to check them and make sure that everything is still like, looking good. They're all fine. Maybe they have to be tuned at most, but that's some of them. But that's about it.
And that's right. Jeff K in the chat also immortalized in that video because his question was up on screen at the time.
Oh, look at that.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the question was a question about the bridge, so that's why Dave was holding up the guitar, maybe. And because of Dave, I want an SG Junior. I got to get an SG Junior.
Isn't that?
Yeah, when he first got that double cut Junior,
right?
With the wraparound tailpiece, man, did I have some serious guitar envy. TV yellow with a red guard.
Isn't that over here?
Yeah, it's behind you. Yeah, that's a great
guitar.
The double cut.
The double cut.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Look at her. She knows exactly what
Nope, that's
doing.
single cut. One. The other one.
And there it is.
Special. That's the Junior.
Yeah, because your SG bin is hanging right there beside the EVH sign.
Careful.
Yeah,
broken headstock.
Yeah. Then I'll be recorded going, Bobby saying, "Oh shit."
What is that, Dennis? A 58 reissue? What is that?
I think it's a 50. I think it's a 58 reissue or a 57. I'm not sure. The guitar is from. I feel like the guitar is from 2009. I want to, or 2006. It's
that sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a good one. That's a nice guitar, man.
That's a good one, yeah.
You can always tell how clean they are when you get the reflection of the screen on there.
Yep.
That's the sound of rock and roll right there.
Yeah, that's a good guitar. Yeah, definitely a good guitar.
And then the SG's over there too, isn't it? Or there's an SG over here, isn't there?
Yeah, it's an SG standard. Yeah, it's a custom shop, but 61. That is from 2013. That guitar is from 2013. That I know.
But Dave had a 62 at one time, right?
That was a buddy. That was.
I got that.
Okay.
I got that one.
Right.
Yeah, I went to see Dave at Guitar Center, and I had a ton of money in my pocket.
The other way, Des.
Oh,
I had a ton of money in my pocket. I was headed to Jersey to buy an original 61, and Dave said to me, "I went to his store. Where is that, in Garden City or something? And Dave said, don't buy an original. I wanted him to come with me because he knows a lot. And he said, no, you don't want to buy that. He said, I'll show you something. He went in the back and he got a case. He said, I traded this into the store, but I'd rather you get it. And he said, take it home, play it for the weekend. If you don't agree with me, he said, you give it back to me. You don't owe me nothing, and we'll go see about the original you want to buy. That guitar is hanging up right there on my wall. I'd never let go of it. It's my go-to. It's my number one. It's my favorite.
Nice. Dave was great like that. He would always be like, take it for the weekend, take it for whatever, check it out, see if you want it.
One of those generous people I knew.
Yeah.
So I was doing a gig on a weekend, and we were talking about a specific guitar, and Dave was like, well, you need this type of telly. And I said, well, I don't have one. I don't have one of those. Oh, yours is going to be too bright. It's got this. You need a rosewood telly. He sent me one to play the gig with, and I mean, we just put it in a box at his UPS and sent it down here, and I played the gig with it that weekend. Didn't want to send it back because it was an amazing guitar. I actually think it's hanging on that wall right there, but
Is it? Hang on.
I think it's the one right there to your left. Is that a cream rosewood neck telly right there?
This one?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that was the one.
I don't think it was this one. Well, maybe it was. So, hang on. What'd that say, Melinda?
It's just so generous, just incredibly generous and trusting.
Yeah.
So this is the one. Yeah. So hang on. I still want to try to play it left-handed. This
Yeah,
one.
I know that one.
Looks like it.
That's a blonde. That's a blonde 60. Like I think it's I think it's a slab board, so it would be anywhere between 60 to 62. But custom shop. It's
Beautiful
light.
guitar.
It's one of the lightest Telecasters I've ever heard.
That's got to be it.
And
Dave
then
said to me, Dave said to me, I didn't buy it. Don't tell Desiree I bought it. She thinks
there was a lot of those.
a buddy of mine lent it to me for a couple of days.
There was a few of those. There was a few of those.
Yeah, since he's been gone, I've heard a lot of those. Don't tell Desiree stories.
But it's okay. We didn't need to tell you, Des, because it was usually gone within 2 months for something else, anyways, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I used to know everything he had, but like since 2020, he was going through everything so fast that I would walk in and he'd be like, well, Desiree knows everything I have. And I'm like, well, I can't keep up anymore. And then his favorite one is this one. And I'm also selling it.
Yeah.
Butterscotch, right?
Is that the Fender?
Mm-hmm. His Telecaster.
Well, he's got one that was made by
That's
didn't
the one.
Dawn do it for him?
Dawn aged it. That one was made at 30th Street, and Dawn aged it.
30th Street Guitars. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a great guitar.
Mm-hmm.
If he has that guitar's that bridge pickup, I don't know about the neck. That bridge, I think those are Don Mayer pickups because I remember him. I got him into those, and I think those are Don Mayer pickups in there. That's a good guitar.
He gave me one of those Don Mayer pickups. He gave me a bridge pickup,
Yeah.
a fingerboard pickup, a Don Mayer, and I put it in a Telecaster I have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Des, is that his Stormy
Just gave me a
Monday
pickup,
Les Paul
right?
Custom?
What, dear?
Is that his Stormy Monday Les Paul Custom? Is that the last Les Paul that he bought right there? The black one?
Yes, the black one. Yeah.
Yes. I'll get it. I'll bring it.
2 pickup.
I think it's gold too, right?
How about this one, right?
Yeah.
It's a black Les Paul Custom. It's a 57.
He fell into that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Some of these are kind of dirty.
This is custom shop, right?
The custom shop.
World worn, guys.
It's 2010.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great guitar.
That's a great sounding guitar.
It's a really good. I'm not a Les Paul Custom guy, and that's a good sounding Les Paul Custom.
That is a really good sounding Les Paul Custom. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you make the money wearing a tuxedo playing that guitar.
Right.
Yeah,
Talking about the green meanie? No, the one you're talking about. Don't. We're not talking about that one. Yeah, no. We're not talking about that one.
Are there still those rock and roll amps?
No, they were sold.
Hey, Desiree, what is the last question from me? What is the one that's right there by your left hand? That's up by the EVH sign on your left.
This one?
No, the one. Keep going back right there. What is that?
My favorite. So
I
this
think
is
that's
the
one that Keith Campbell wanted to see.
This is the one that David taught me to play on.
Oh, cool.
5150.
It's the Ernie Ball.
Is that an Ernie Ball or is that an EX?
It's the Ernie Ball, I believe. Hang on. Yep, Ernie Ball Music Man.
Wow.
Rob would know if that's a. I'm trying to think. What is that's a
Sorry,
It's not an original, right?
Can't remember.
No, I meant like original EVH.
Right.
They, is it?
I don't know. Rob would know.
I
Yeah.
can
I have it written down.
I got it written down right here. It's an Ernie Ball Music Man Axis EX.
Okay.
EX.
Right.
2003.
Sweet.
One of the good ones.
Yeah.
I love my Access.
I love this guitar. It's so nice.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. I remember when Dave got that.
Yeah. So you just have to hold up an Ernie Ball Music Man long enough when Rob appears.
I know. Woo.
I think I heard my
I gotta
neighbors.
do that, or I'm gonna be dropping it.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, that's got a great quilt though. That's an Ernie Ball Music Man EX, and it's that's the real deal.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
All right.
Sweet.
See you, Mark. Will do. My good buddy Mark is over here today. Help me do some yard work.
And Rob, do you know? I think Dennis knew a little bit, but you might know too. What's up with this black and white one? Like this one.
Oh, the polka dot one?
Yeah.
That was one I always loved.
Buddy Guy.
That is a
It's not Buddy Guy. I know that because he got pissed off when people said that.
He used to get pissed off. Can you do a Buddy Guy strap? It's not a Buddy Guy strap.
that is a K&E body. That's a custom K&E body, and it's a Musicraft neck, and it's got a Floyd Rose FRT1 style bridge on it. I want to say the pickup is a Duncan 59, but I'm not sure. But Nick Amendolara painted that body. And it was just a custom job. That's a great guitar. I've always wanted that one myself. Desiree, can you hold it to the side? Can you hold it, like turn it to side? I think
Dusty Rhodes guitar.
I think that's a,
Yeah,
I saw that.
right. I think it's a 2-inch thick body, like the Circles guitar and the Unchained.
Actually, you know, Rob, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a 2-inch thick body.
It isn't. It's hard to tell. Maybe it's regular.
It's regular because
Okay.
I remember that, you know, that I don't know which one of his guitars were 2 inches. The one that became the
Rasta,
right? Yeah.
Maybe it's not, Dennis. I think you're right. But that is a K&E body, and it's a Musicraft neck, and it's got all the real deal hardware on it. I think he's got a prototype nut on it too.
Is there a Des? Face it. Turn the face. Bring it close. That's like a non. No, I want to see the Floyd.
Yeah, it's an FRT1 style, no fine tuner.
No fine tuners. Oh yeah, right.
Yep. It's not a true FRT one. It's one of the newer ones, but it's FRT1 style. But Dave has he's got it all souped up like what the real one would be. It's the real deal. That's a kick-ass guitar. The neck on that guitar is to die for.
Yeah, so it's got a drop D tuner on there?
No, you can't have a D tuner on a non-fine tuner Floyd.
Right.
They don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Because I was like, I don't know what this one is.
That is a great guitar. Desiree, can you show the headstock real close?
I
think he's
is this a trick
broken
question?
headstock. No, I think he's got a.
Let me.
I don't know for sure. I think that's a prototype vintage prototype nut. Scroll down a little bit more. Push the other way.
Scroll down.
There. Hard to tell. I think last time I saw it, it had a prototype nut on it. It may not now, but I can't.
I don't think he's changed anything on it.
Okay. That's a great guitar. It's got some serious bird's eye on that neck too.
See that?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is a good guitar.
He always called that the polka dot Strat.
Okay. I know he said polka dot, but I didn't know what it was. Okay. Thank you.
Dusty Rhodes Strat.
Big bucks. Big money.
Dusty Rhodes.
Oops. Sorry. I lost you guys. Hang on. Okay.
What? We still see it.
All right.
Well, Des, I think this has been a great show.
Yes, me too. So again, thank you all.
See you next year.
You know, exactly.
So we're doing this a yearly thing now?
I keep saying to Des, as long as she wants to keep doing it, I'm fine with that.
If y'all want to do this again next year, we'll do it again next year. I might not be in New York, but wherever I'm at, we'll do it.
That's fine. That's fine. I would be more than happy to do it again.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy to hear the same old David stories because they're that good. You know,
they are that good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there won't be any new ones.
That line to Larry. What do you think? What are you gonna do if they suck? Who says that?
Yes. Oh my God. David. He always says the most craziest things. You're like, why would you say that?
Desiree, I might have. I'm already getting text messages on the Polka Dot one, so I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
Yeah, because Rob, honestly, you'd be the best person probably to determine approximate value on something like that because you know the sum of the parts, basically.
Well, Dave always wanted me to have that one. It's just I've got so many now. I can't fit anything else. But I'll talk to you, Des.
Okay. And again, if anybody wants pretty much anything to do with knobs, I should not have done that again. Guitar knobs.
They look like identical twins.
Ab Johnson, yeah.
Any kind of guitar parts.
Yep.
Floyd Rose parts. I cannot talk now. Floyd Rose.
Floyd
parts.
Rowe.
Floyd Rose.
Floyd Rowe.
Floyd Road.
She's got a bouquet of Floyd roses, is what she's saying.
A pair. I'm not going to say any other words because it's going to be turned around against me. Anything guitar related, just let me know if you need something, and I'm pretty sure I have it. And we can discuss a price, and we'll just go from there. And again, thank you guys for spending 2.5 hours with us. Oh, no, almost 3 hours with us. And for being here and making more memories about David. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Thanks
Des.
for having us.
Thank you, Ben.
I just clicked the on button. Des did all the legwork this year. I'm going to say that. Yeah. She's like, "You want to do it?" Yep. I'm like, "I don't have a ton of time." She's like, "That's fine. I'll reach out to people." I said, "I know you will."
I'm going to tell y'all a guitar story right quick. First time I came up here, he showed me his guitars, and so I don't know nothing about them. I said, "What are these worth? About $300-400?" He looked at me. He said, "About 10 times that much." Oh hell!
Ain't that a motherfucker?
Yeah, man, that's a good time.
Yeah,
Lenny. Yeah.
Good to
Hey,
see
you guys, it's been great being on with you
Great.
all.
Good to see you, Lenny.
It's great seeing you, Lenny.
Same here. Thanks so much, everybody, for having me.
Lenny, good to see you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Jay to go. Can I get Earl as a soundbite? Because I need that.
Jay's probably already
I'll do
captured
that
it.
for you. Yeah, he probably already has it, but if you don't, I can get it for you.
And capture.
I just want to say one thing. It's never you never expect to lose a friend. You never expect to lose a loved one. You never expect to lose someone special in your life. So, I mean, I guess one lesson that you learn, in all seriousness, joking aside, as much fun as Dave and I always had. You live each day like it's your last. And when you wake up the next day, you say, "Hey, I'm here again." And you do everything you can, and you cherish the people that you love, and you have fun, and you enjoy yourself. But, it's never easy doing shows like this. But I do honestly believe that Dave is part of this, and he is hearing this. He is here.
Amen.
Yeah. And, let's just keep the spirit alive in Dave's memory,
Yep.
Always.
we all love to do.
Damn
Let's all go out and buy a guitar in his honor.
He would love that. He would love that.
With some extra knobs. Yeah.
Right.
And then immediately replace the knobs, make it perfect.
Right.
Now it's right. Now
Yeah,
it's right.
I think at the eulogy for Dave that day, I think I said to Desiree, I said, "I know it's tough, honey." I said, the bad news is that this never goes away, but the good news is this never goes away.
Right, right.
You know, so
yeah, well
we
said.
keep them in a place. We keep them with us.
Yeah.
You know, and
Thank you
and
for
if you
that.
really believe someday we'll get to hang again.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
for that.
think that's the great way to end it. I want to thank everybody as well for helping Des do this, and everybody in the chat tonight. All the comments have been amazing. Thanks to the Mod Squad for doing the Mod Squad stuff, links and such. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed it. You know, and I know I was close to tearing up a couple times, and I definitely got some laughs along with Dave. So
yeah,
awesome. Appreciate it,
Cheers.
folks, and we'll see you soon. Where is it? You think I'd have the stuff set up, Jay? 6 years. 6 years. You think you'd have the outro video queued? No.
No.
Hey, one more just for the road.
Yeah.
Rob Johnson.
Nice.